I was born in Aberdeen, Washington, 1967, and I lived between Aberdeen and Montesano, which is 20 miles away.
How do you spell that?
Montesano?
Yeah.
Montesano. And I moved back and forth between relatives' house throughout my whole childhood and
Your parents
until high school.
split up, yeah.
Yeah, when I was 7.
And do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, I remember feeling ashamed.
What do you got back there, Alan?
Oh man, I wasn't even sure if y'all could even see me. Well, me and Kurt are chilling, and
That's awesome.
You got a Kurt cutout. Where'd you get that from?
oh man, I looked for that for years. I started looking for that in high school, and I recently found it maybe like 2 years ago. And where? I would guess eBay, but I can't say for sure.
Do you know how much somebody would pay for that? For
Yeah.
a Kurt Cobain life-size cutout?
Oh man, and it was gonna be like an extra
yeah.
$30.
I saw
if
a
I got it
Spider-Man cutout
unfolded.
that somebody wanted like 150 for it. For Spider-Man.
While I have
Which
your
one?
attention, though, I wanted to show all y'all this. It's gonna send you
That's
down a
true.
whole new rabbit hole. This is a highlights magazine. Y'all might remember that from the dentist
Oh my
office
God.
or whatever. That says Courtney Love on it, but it's not the Courtney Love we know. It's Lois Mafio and Patrick Maley. And if you look right there, it says K Records.
What?
Oh, wait.
This
so
is 1991. And it sounds a lot like early Courtney Love stuff, even though that's not Courtney Love in this group.
Wow.
do you think she stole that name from somebody?
100%
Sounds like
and
it.
their style of music.
Sounds like it. Wow.
Maybe that's why she always like talks shit about Calvin Johnson and like K Records and Olympia.
Yeah,
She's
see,
always
I
wow.
don't want to say too much because I haven't been able to find too much about it. But I think you can get
Oh, they had beef, dude. Calvin Johnson had a restraining order on her. Like,
who hasn't. Oh man,
I
Oh,
might
God.
before it's over with.
dude, I
yeah.
contacted Frances.
She's coming for you, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am the American Spy Fox. Welcome to the channel. This year for Kurt's birthday, I wanted to have a conversation about the way he affected his fans. When he came into their life, how they affected him and sort of changed the person they were. I got a group of patrons together for a group discussion and just sort of a celebration of his birthday. I didn't want it to be about the end of his life. I wanted it to be about how he affected others. In that aspect, he still lives on, right? People remember him, they're still affected by him. A lot of people have lived their lives according to the way they might feel Kurt would conduct himself. Their entire moral compass was shaped by music. It is a group chat, and as any conversation goes, you never know where it's going to go. So, although it's predominantly about Cobain, sometimes it veers off. And I tried to keep an open mind. We sort of got into dreams people have had with Kurt Cobain in them and Lane Staley. And then it got into the spirit box and the spiritual and supernatural, and it got all over the place. But I kept an open mind. Even though I'm a skeptical person, I was still interested in what people had to say. And it was pretty fun. It was entertaining, it was interesting, and I had a good time. I hope you enjoy it as well. In the future, I would like to do similar videos, so if any more of you would ever like to join a group discussion, keep in mind that it's something we'll do more of in the future. Did you guys hear that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hey, you bit your tongue well.
Because
Right,
I did really appreciate his time, and there was shit he said that I really appreciated, but there was some shit he said to me that I was just looking at the camera like, What the fuck, dude? Like,
It seemed like he was tiptoeing around a lot of stuff.
yeah,
He always
tiptoeing,
came off
like,
that way to me. Even in the book, he came off that way. You could tell he was a jerk that tiptoed around shit.
Does he still? I wonder if he still works with Ian Halperin because he
they're still
co-wrote the
friends.
book. Oh, okay. I just wonder why we don't see them like in Soaked in Bleach. I think Max Wallace was the only one.
None
on
of
there.
those people, none of those people live anywhere near each other, and they don't even talk. Like that, like you would think like Cyril Wecht and Tom Grant and Ian Halperin were like all hanging out together and they're friends. They don't. Every now and then they, you know, if something comes up, they'll talk to each other, but they're not like buddies who talk regularly. From what I was told. Because that's how I thought about it too. Like I thought they did a movie together, so they must be like really good friends or something. You know what I mean?
Well, would you want to be buddies with them?
No, I did. I actually respected the guy a lot until I talked to him.
I think we may be misunderstanding him just as much as he's misunderstanding us.
Probably.
I would like to give the benefit of the doubt.
I mean, I understood where he was coming from. I just didn't know why the fuck he was pulling it on my channel. Because he was very well aware of my channel. Like it almost seemed like he wanted to be antagonistic, like he wanted to pick a fight, and probably if I was in the mood I would have went along with it, but I was just kind of in this I don't give a shit attitude. You ever been like that, where like someone can fuck with you and you're just like I don't even care? You know,
that whole thing that I'm watching. When I watched it, the impression I got was, did he ever watch your channel? Does he know what he's being interviewed about today?
That's what I'm saying. We had a 3-hour long conversation.
Yeah.
A few days before we even recorded that video or that chat, and he seemed on the level as far he seemed to understand things very well. And then when we recorded, it was like I was talking to a different person.
Yeah, it was weird. And that political stuff, I feel like sometimes older people, like, they just can't help themselves with their opinion on politics.
Yeah.
Like that. So, I mean, I can kind of get that part, but the rest of the interview, I was just like, did he know that he was getting interviewed for this today? Like, it just went off in a different direction than I was expecting.
It was strange. Yeah. And the thing that really upset me was very rarely would he even like answer my questions. Yeah. Like I would ask him a question and he would just go off on a rant. But I've watched him in 90 because him and Hank and Ian did all these different interviews. Like they went on Maury Povich. You know what I mean? Like Maury Povich was huge in the 90s. And he's very good at following questions. You know, I really think it was like he took me as a joke. And he was like, I'm just going to do what I want to do and not let you...
I got the feeling that he was trying, like he thought he was schooling you or educating you.
Yes. And I felt like he needed educated.
Right. Yeah, you guys definitely rubbed each other wrong.
Maybe... I was asking him stuff I've never read his whole book, but I skimmed through it. And, I read the second one. I have never read the first one. But it was a long. You've read which one?
I read the first one, which was
Who Killed Kurt Cobain.
Cobain.
Yeah,
That's the first
I haven't read that one. But anyway,
it's shorter, you know.
He had problems remembering stuff. Is what I'm saying. Like there was some stuff that I didn't even leave in any videos because, like, he would be like, "Oh, I'd have to look back. I don't even remember," you know, because I guess it has been damn near 30 years. I thought I was talking to an expert. This is what I'm getting at. He did the job to make the money. Like he's not like you and I. This is like a lifelong thing that you keep up on and you know all the details. He just did what he had to do to write a book and then moved on with his life. You know what I'm saying? It's just another project to him. So there was a lot of things he forgot.
Not totally though. He's got ego wrapped up in it, or he wouldn't have come on your channel.
I know.
That's the whole reason why he's watching. I think is he's narcissistic, but
he's
it was important that we got him on anyway.
But I mean, dude, every person that he interviewed, he would in his book call them a kook or call them crazy or make fun of them. So it's not like he hasn't, he would like be really nice to them and get what he wanted, and then he'd go write his book and like Richard Lee. Like Richard Lee's eccentric, but I don't think he's crazy.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
don't think he is either. I actually think he's right about a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
agreed.
he worked as a journalist for a long time, so it's not
Intense,
like
but
he's
not a kook.
stupid.
Yeah.
I hope not.
So here's a little more context, so maybe you guys would understand why I was upset with this guy. First and second conversation we had a couple conversations before we recorded, and he was like, it almost felt like he was like trying to give me confidence. Like he was like, you're not an amateur, man, you're a professional, you should write articles, you know, like, and I'm like, wow, this guy who wrote this book is telling me all this great shit. And then when we start recording, he's like, you know, amateurs and internet sleuths. And I'm like, dude, you were just calling me a professional and how well I did my videos and all this shit. And now that we're recording, you're lightweight putting me down. Like, it just, I don't know.
He did say some of that while it was recording.
Towards the end. At the end, he kind of, I think he realized maybe I've been a little bit of an asshole and he tried to backtrack.
Kind of like Buzz Osborne.
Yeah.
I think Courtney got to him. That's what I was getting out of it.
What was up with
That's what I
Courtney?
thought.
The Courtney shit. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I
Go
felt
ahead,
like
man.
she
Go
got
ahead.
to him.
Yeah, I think you're right. Or he got
Courtney's so talented.
he became
She's so
friends.
respected.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
what? Who? Who respects her?
I wonder if he drove off in a Lexus.
I don't.
You know, there's this Facebook group, Kurt Cobain was murdered, and they like shit talk this channel, and like, man, you totally could have a slander suit on some of the shit that these people say, and I'm always like trying to defend the channel, and I finally just got sick of it and just don't look at it anymore. But they were on there and they were trying. There was this one girl, and she probably wasn't even old enough to remember when Kurt was born, and she was on there. She said, I know that Alan Rich did it. I know for a fact. And then I said, no, that's Thomas said that's not the case. Do you have proof? And then somebody comes in and says, yeah, they have proof. He was a plumber and such and such and such and such.
Yeah.
But some of these people on there, that's your amateur sleuths and morons. These little girls that are probably 20 years old and come on there, armchair detective.
Why would they be?
and
Well, if
Richard-
their group is all up, so they believe that Kurt was murdered. Obviously, that's the title of their group. Why would they be angry with my channel?
I'm
Right.
in that group.
I'm in that
Yes.
group too, but I
Have
don't
you
remember.
seen some of the shit that they say? They tried to say that like you stole from Tom or some shit and made a web. Somebody, you know what? And it was some man. I'm totally telling you. You can probably have
Yeah. There
slander
was
on
a
this.
girl, some girl. Tom's the one that actually told me about this. Some girl wrote like an article, it's like a blog, and said I burglarized him and all this crazy shit.
Or something about you stole his food truck or
I
don't know. It was
stole a
some-
food truck.
That's pretty
it
ridiculous.
was something about a food truck. And there's one guy on there, and he has a vendetta. I don't know who, if he was that guy that was stalking you a few months ago.
Is
He's
this,
a-
let me think.
Buddy.
There was a patron that I removed. His name was fuck. Oh, that dude's insane.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know who you're talking about. He likes to pick fights with people.
Negative comments get more hits.
Trolls out there.
Is this guy's
That
name?
may be him. That
He was
sounds familiar.
he was a patron. So he's on a Facebook. He followed my channel forever. He was a
He said you threw
patron.
him off.
Yeah, I removed him. Yeah, absolutely, I did. Did he say why I removed him?
No, he said for no reason at all, and that
Oh,
he was
okay.
just a supporter. and
Because that
he
makes
was wrong-
sense.
He was wrongfully terminated or something, and he's on there now, and everybody's wanting a pity party about it, and then they're going on there, and they'll, well, I heard that American Spy Fox did such and such and such and such, and I'm thinking, man, you're supposed to be talking about Kurt being murdered, and then it's that,
Right.
and then mainly
Right,
it's
like
the
what do
little
I even
teeny
have
bop,
to do with it, man?
yeah, teeny bopper girls that are obsessed with Richard Allen Lee or Wrench or whatever the hell his name is. going, and they're just convinced that he did it.
Well, you know,
And-
I used to think that maybe Alan Wrench had something to do with it too,
Yeah.
but it's just not the case. It's
too when I
like,
was 15.
I don't know if it was Wallace or Grant, but one of them told me that they had investigated, and Alan Wrench was on job sites the week that Kurt was missing in California. So you can't be in two places at once. Okay, now somebody's trying to enter the room again. Let's see who this is. How old would Kurt Cobain be?
56.
Hello, who's this?
Welcome.
Can you hear us? Go get it.
It may take him a minute to put on his sound. It took me a minute to figure it out.
Yeah.
Me too.
I love your Oakland A's room, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Adrian
Welcome.
has a YouTube channel and auctions. You auction all kinds of cards, don't you?
All
Like,
kinds of cards, but I do a lot of it's all on. It's the main
mainly baseball.
baseball cards, yeah, and baseball stuff, yeah.
I've got some old stuff from the late 80s and early 90s. Maybe I'll watch your channel and send you something sometime.
That'd be awesome. Yeah,
It's,
thank
it's,
you.
it's like a fan thing.
I
Who
made
do we got here? Who just entered the
Yeah.
room?
the sports card market's hot.
What do you
Somebody popping up that says Samsung.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I gotta mute you because we're recording and you're not really addressing the group. So when you come back, when your video comes back on and you're ready, I'll unmute your mic. Obviously, as you guys know, I'll talk to anybody who messages me. But this guy was sending me like fucking manifestos, like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs, and expecting me to read it all. And he couldn't organize his thoughts very well. He'd go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And I was like, look, man. And it was all about how he wanted to correct me, right? Like you're wrong about all this shit and I'm going to correct you. And I said, man, I'm open. Like nobody's 100% all the time. Send me some organized thoughts and send me your sources and I'll look at them. And he never did that. He just kept on. Well, this and this. Then it got to the point where he told me, well, I studied journalism and I believe I can make your channel better and you should be recording videos with me and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, why don't you just start your own YouTube channel? And then he started about Max Wallace. You took Max Wallace the wrong way. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm the one that had the fucking conversation. If I perceived it incorrectly, then my bad. But it was like every day this guy had a complaint and he was going to fix everything for me. And what he really wanted was to be on the channel, which if I hadn't just chilled the fuck out, he'd be on the channel right now.
That's right.
But, so honestly, I just got sick of it. Like you expect me to take like an hour to 2 hours every day to read all your stuff, to respond to like he didn't just have a question. It would be like a whole chapter of shit, you know? And I was very polite to him for a long time until he started saying, I could make your channel better. You should be recording videos with me. That pissed me off because basically what he's saying is you suck. And I said, well, if you can make it better, then you should make your own YouTube channel. And I removed him. And that was it. I didn't call him any names or, put him down or nothing. I just said, I'm done with this. Goodbye.
That's good. Like being the front
That
man
was
of,
it.
of such an important cause, like you really can't say anything negative while you're being recorded ever. Like it's just part of the game, unfortunately. But we appreciate you playing it.
Yeah.
This is a cause worth standing up for and biting your tongue for, etc.
I don't know if I should. I was gonna type in "Who are you?" but then I was like, maybe I should wait to see if you see it first. So.
I can see all of y'all now. All right.
Yeah, when I first started using Zoom on my phone,
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that I had to type in my name, so I was technically just like the number thing, and then I figured it out.
see.
Okay.
So, starting at the top here, you have to. Okay, Leslie.
Mhm.
I want to ask you. You said you just turned 41, right?
This Friday I will be.
This Friday you turned 41. Do you remember where you were when you heard that Kurt Cobain died?
I'm not sure. Technically,
You're going to be
I
the
was-
first person that's ever told me that they don't remember where they were.
Well, I was going through a lot of stressful stuff at that time already.
Yeah, we were all
so
jaded
I
in the
wasn't
90s.
socially active. with much.
Yeah.
I was going through a lot of medical issues.
Did you listen to Nirvana when you were young though, or was that like later?
Kind of in between.
Yeah.
Technically, I don't really have a favorite style of music. It just depends on what mood I'm in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can agree with that. I think people think a lot of people think you have to like just stick to one genre, especially younger when you're, especially like punks and stuff. They're like, you can't like anything
Can't sell
else.
out.
Yeah.
But then when you get older, you don't really care.
Yep.
Well, I think it's more punk rock not to care.
There you go. I like
That's
that.
what I always thought. Like people would be, I thought it would be more punk rock if you were like, yeah, listen to whatever the fuck I want to.
That's right, bitch.
Oh yeah.
Well, so Hollow Waters, what about you?
So I was actually born after.
When were you born?
2002.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
But I do have.
I thought I was gonna die by 2002. You were born.
Yeah.
So when did you find Nirvana?
So I found them when I was, I think, 14. And
Sounds about right.
When I started listening, I was kind of like, is the main, lead singer dead, or is he still alive? Like, I kind of got the feeling that he was dead. And then I Googled it. I'm like, oh no, he is dead. And then I started.
Did Tom Grant pop up right under that?
I don't think so. I more like looked at the wiki page, and then I saw like a bunch of conflicting reports about, well, this happened, but then this happened. And then like kind of started researching and like seeing different YouTube comments about, well, Courtney did it. Well, Courtney didn't do it, And then I found your channel in 2020, and I'm like, oh, yeah, there's something here,
Wow. That's interesting to me, man.
Yeah. It's interesting to me too. I love that story. That, that you came on so much later, kind of in the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those are some of my favorite stories.
Yeah, because like when I was younger, I was sick a lot and stuff, and so like when I heard that, oh well, maybe Kurt, he did that whole OD thing in Rome because he was sick and stuff. And there was this one time where I was really sick, and I was like, this is really painful. Like I was kind of in a darker mindset, and I'm like, well, maybe he did do that if he was sick enough, Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like.
Wait, so you were thinking of that as an option?
Yeah, like in terms of him ODing in Rome.
Oh.
But I mean, are you saying that you felt so bad that you were thinking, well, if Kurt did it, then maybe that's something I should try? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying, like,
thank goodness.
In terms of his suicide attempt.
She's putting herself in his place and saying maybe he felt so bad that he did kill himself.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've considered that too. I have.
Yeah.
But finally,
at the beginning.
After all these years of following it, I have finally gotten to the point where it's like, I am convinced 100% that he did not kill himself.
Right.
I wasn't convinced 100% until I talked to Dr. Weck, honestly.
Yeah. And that's a good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When I talked to that guy, like not recording, and I was like, come on, man, tell me the truth. Like, because I knew he was a celebrity in the 90s. He was always on true crime shows and stuff. So I thought, is he perpetuating this just to, maintain this celebrity shit? And I was like, seriously, what happened? And he just laughed. He was like, dead people can't kill themselves.
Yeah.
It was just, but that's another reason why actually I removed that guy from Patreon, because he was putting down Dr. Weck. He actually told me that his research, he wanted to come on my channel and tell everybody about his research to prove Dr. Weck wrong, while supporting the idea that Kurt Cobain was murdered. Like, very convoluted.
Yeah, that sounds like a Courtney troll.
Yeah, and
that's
I
like
was just
saying
like,
Bruce Lee
really,
doesn't
dude?
do
Like, you
karate
think
right.
that your research is better than 41,000 autopsies? Like, but
What I don't understand is why do they keep hiring him to do these autopsies if they're not going to listen to what a word he says?
yeah, they
That's a really good point.
Right?
absolutely. There was some news channel or something that hired him to look into Jeffrey Epstein, and he was like, yeah, this guy didn't he didn't lean. This is not conducive with leaning forward. Like somebody strangled this guy and broke his vertebrae and all this, and nobody listens, man. But
I hope you got
Hollow
something
Waters, I
out of
wanted to
that.
ask you, because you're a lot younger than all of us. You were 14 in 2016, so you're like what, 23? Am I?
21.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Wow. Congratulations.
So you're like just now old enough to drink alcohol.
I wish I was 21.
Don't we all? Wouldn't it be cool if you could like turn 21 and then just stay 21 for like 50 years and then start aging? No,
Yeah.
but people your age, do you find like people your age are still into Nirvana? Do you find, or is it like a rarity? You know what I'm saying?
Good
I
question.
grew up in a small town, and so like I grew up around a lot of conservatives, and the people who, there were a couple people who I knew liked Nirvana, but they were not people I wanted to hang out with because they didn't really understand the songs. Like there was this one kid I remember, he didn't really seem to understand what Polly was about.
Yeah.
And we were in like gym class and we were line dancing, and he was just kind of saying it to himself. He was like, we should be line dancing to Polly. And I'm like, what? That's not really a song you line dance.
He didn't understand how serious it was.
No, he did not.
In that person's defense, not knowing who they are, I was there for a long time. Like, because I'm a musician, to this day, I still don't know every Kurt Cobain lyric, but I could probably play every lick on the guitar. I was more focused on the music, and then the lyrics came later. You know, I had somebody explain to me like Polly, and I was like, oh my God, that's pretty dang dark.
Yeah.
Right. You know,
I just wanted to throw that 2 cents out there.
That's great, Alan, because I feel like the songs might mean something different in your 20s and in your 30s and in your 40s.
Oh, yeah.
It's like as you gain experiences in life, they might evolve, you know. So what it meant in your 20s completely different
we're
now.
a different person when we wake up than we are when we go to sleep in one day.
That's so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
And lyrics mean one thing to one person and something to another.
Absolutely.
Some people write a song where their lyrics are just one right there, explains everything. Some of them you're just gonna have to delve into.
I always felt like Kurt's lyrics were like very fragmented, like half of a thought. You know what I mean?
Have
Like,
you?
here's half of a thought, and you finish it. You know.
Do you guys like the Melvins? Does anybody here listen to Melvins?
Yeah.
I've been getting into them more recently. I used to hate them. I didn't like their music or nothing, but I do now.
I love the Melvins. I fucking love the Melvins. But
I like Tad.
That's a good band too, yeah.
But I think you can see where Kurt was influenced by Buzz in his writing style, especially with the lyrics.
Yeah.
Kurt does a better job of it, but you can see how he kind of took Buzz's like just freeform, say whatever the hell kind of style.
Yeah, I think he kind of looked up to him in a sense, and I think Buzz knew that. I think that might be why he's so jaded, that he kind of got more of the spotlight. You know, he's like, he used to look up to me, you know, and
that would be anybody would have a little bit of jealousy or animosity.
Yeah.
Like
well, that's what
had,
like a
it's
lot
like
of
your little
musicians,
brother
they get
following you around.
inspirations.
You know? Yeah, and then they become more famous than you. I mean, I've heard Buzz say like, well, you know, if I was blonde haired and blue eyed, then I would have sold more records, you know? Yeah, like, which is probably right. He's probably right. You know what I mean? Maybe he's right. I don't know. But
well, they did say that the girls, didn't they like Kurt? The That like his main fan base at the beginning was mostly girls because they thought he was
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah, do you ever hear?
It was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never met a woman that said he was not handsome. That's for sure.
My mom thought he was ugly.
Oh,
But my
really?
mom was also 300 pounds in a wheelchair, so what does she know? She died in July and had but she told me, I said, I think he looks a lot like Brad Pitt if he cut his hair. It really looked like.
He does.
Maybe so,
He does
but
look
I
a lot
don't
like
know
I've heard that a
Pitt.
lot.
What you see in all these old, she called them drug addicts. She must have been related to Max.
Oh, people.
And-
yeah, I remember that. People would be like,
And my
"Oh,
mom
that
was born in-
junkie." That yeah.
She was born in 1950, and she was a nurse, and she dealt with the kind in the hospital in the emergency room, and she just
Different
didn't have any-
generation.
Yes, and she would say, "You're just so obsessed with all these old drug addicts, elderly."
But you
lazy,
gotta
all
look past
these-
that, man, to their talent. You know, you gotta look
I
past.
I went and I got, I have a Nevermind signed CD,
Oh wow.
and
Nice.
I haven't had it authenticated. I got it when I was 13 or so on eBay.
Who
Yeah,
signed? Who signed it?
all of them.
All three of them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I have it in a safe deposit box. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I
don't-
would.
I
I would
don't
definitely
have
lock that up.
Nevermind, but I've got a
But-
signed copy of Incesticide.
Wow.
Buy the whole band.
Put that
Yeah,
in,
the
put
whole
it
band.
put it in the safe deposit box. When I brought it into the bank, they said, "What is that?" And I showed it to them. They said, "Put that in there."
I mean, I'm like you though. It's got to be authenticated before you know if it's really worth anything. You know.
Yeah, because we get people that I watch that Pawn Stars. And people, they're getting real good at forging stuff nowadays.
Yeah.
You
know,
know, I
Well,
was
there's.
20-something
I'm
years
sure
ago.
there's plenty of people who could, like Julian's auction house. I'm sure there's people you could get in contact with that you could probably just send them a clear picture and they could probably authenticate it.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
like $250 to get something authenticated.
Really?
Yeah.
$250?
Yeah.
I've seen higher. That's actually pretty low.
Really?
I've seen like most of what I've seen has been in the 400s.
Okay.
So
For Kurt Cobain's autograph. Did
I
he
mean,
sign a lot of stuff?
If it's real, it's worth it. Did he
So
sign
I-
a lot of stuff? I mean, I imagine he signed about as much stuff as anybody did. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not, some people are assholes and they don't want.
Well, Kurt wasn't like that. He loved his fans too
That's
much.
what I'm
That's why
saying
he
is he
was
seemed like the
constantly
kind of
writing all
guy
the
who
time.
would stick around and
Yeah.
meet people and
Like,
yeah.
I think
I
about
don't
that
have
kid in that
anything.
video.
I have Chris Novoselic's signature on a picture. That's it. Like I don't have anything else.
I
Am
have
the only
that
one here without a
original.
signature?
What is
I
it?
have that original Jagstein guitar, the '93.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
beautiful.
You have the
I'm
original?
jealous.
I have the original. I can go
No
see if I can
shit.
grab it. It's
Oh.
a piece of shit. It has been.
No,
I'm
no.
a
If
guitar player.
you got it,
If we're
let's
gonna
see
do
it.
that, I'm gonna show off all
Yeah.
my Kurt Cobain guitars.
It's not the. It's not.
Well, let's
I
see
have the
'em, man.
Jaguar. I have the Jaguar too.
Yeah,
The kids
I've got
play
the
with that one, but I'll be right back and grab it. But it has electronic problems. I've had it in the shop, and he wants to just take the pickups out and put Texas Specials in. And I've been on the fence for. I bought it in 2002, maybe.
You should get with me.
I would if
going to
if
Houston.
it's an original.
People want to. It is. People want to buy it all the time. I said, no,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not for sale. It's an old man. I'll go grab it. real quick.
If you have problems finding somebody in Houston as a luthier that you can trust, I come into Houston sometimes, and I'd probably do it free of charge just to touch the thing.
Yeah. What would be the best? You're the guitarist. What would be the best course of action if your pickups weren't working? If you replace them, you'd want to put the same kind of pickups in, huh?
Good luck getting the
Ideally,
same
yeah.
factory.
I mean, the guitar would probably be worth more with the original pickups not working
That's
in
not
it
it.
than
That's what I was thinking.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is
I have
this
some-
is the Courtney Love. Yep.
I have something
For
that's
some
gonna send you all down a rabbit hole.
You got a
about
green
Courtney
screen
Love.
on or something?
Yeah, let me
It's
take
going
that
in and
off.
out.
See how beat up this poor thing is? 96 Squire.
Squire.
Thick.
This is actually a great guitar. It's my
Yeah,
favorite.
Squires are
Classic
good
5 series?
guitars.
He brought me the Kurt Cobain Jaguar.
Yeah, I want to see the Jags thing.
We got they want to see the Jag thing.
Yeah,
the red one.
there it
The red
is.
one that when you plug it in, it goes pop, 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 pop. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I was at a music shop the other day. There's
I
this
got
little
20 guitars.
shop on OU campus called Blue Eagle Music, and the dude, I always go in there and like buy like drumsticks and drum heads and just odds and ends. And the dude that owns the place, his name's Frank, and he was like, Charles, you're a Nirvana fan, right? I gotta show you something. He pulled out a 62 Martin. Like, what was Kurt's in Unplugged? Like a 50 something?
59 Martin D18 E.
Yeah, he pulled out a 62 Martin
nice.
acoustic, and he was
It's
like,
the exact same model, practically.
they only made like 20 something of them or some shit, or there's only 20 something left or something. And I was like, man, what do you want for that? And he's like, 45,000. You know? But it was nice just being able to see a guitar that nice, you know. It looked a lot like, obviously acoustic guitars all look alike, but there was something about the wood that they used and the craftsmanship that made them so special, you know.
Yeah.
What do you got back there, Alan?
Oh man, I wasn't even sure if y'all could even see me. Well, me and Kurt are chilling, and
That's
You
awesome.
got a Kurt cutout. Where'd you get that from?
oh man, I looked for that for years. I started looking for that in high school, and I recently found it maybe like 2 years ago. And where? I would guess eBay, but I can't say for sure.
Do you know how much somebody would pay for that? For
Yeah.
a Kurt Cobain life-size cutout?
Oh man, and it was gonna be like an
Oh,
extra
yeah.
$30.
I saw a
if got it
Spider-Man cutout
unfolded.
that somebody wanted like 150 for it. For fucking Spider-Man.
While I have
Which
your
one?
attention, though, I wanted to show all of y'all this. It's gonna send you
That's
down a whole
true.
new rabbit hole. This is a Highlights magazine. Y'all might remember that from the dentist
my
office
God.
or whatever. That says Courtney Love on it, but it's not the Courtney Love we know. It's Lois Mafio and Patrick Maley. And if you look right there, it says K Records.
What?
Oh,
wait.
This
so
is 1991. And it sounds a lot like early Courtney Love stuff, even though that's not Courtney Love in this group.
Wow.
do you think she stole that name from somebody?
100%
Sounds like
and
it.
their style of music.
Sounds like it. Wow.
Maybe that's why she always like talks shit about Calvin Johnson and like K Records and Olympia.
Yeah,
She's
see,
always
I,
like,
Go
wow.
ahead. I don't want to say too much because I haven't been able to find too much about it. But I think you can get.
Oh, they had beef, dude. Calvin Johnson had a restraining order on her. Like,
who hasn't? Oh man,
I
Oh,
might
God.
before it's over with.
dude, I
Oh,
contacted
She's
Frances.
coming for you, man.
Yeah, if you're not careful.
She's coming for
I
all
warned
of
you
us.
about that early on.
I always tell my kids, if you ever see a guy in a clown suit just sitting outside, it's probably a private investigator. Because Courtney used to hire people to dress up in clown suits and sit outside people's houses just to psychologically fuck with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant actually. It's an old.
It
CIA
is. It would
move.
be pretty freaky. I would just go up and knock on the window and be like, "What the fuck are you doing here, guy?" You know. But
I'd be more
whatever.
scared of her than
Yeah.
a clown.
Here
yeah,
it is if y'all didn't see it
yeah.
already.
Yeah, because she can
This
get
thing
away
is so
with. She
old.
can get away with it.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
See, there's something wrong, and I've had it in the shop, and something with the input jack is not, it's misfiring in here, and when you plug it in, it goes pop, 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 pop.
So that's
It
the
is
Jags
so
thing. The
old.
other one was a Mustang.
The other one was a
Yeah,
Jaguar.
A Jag. Oh.
See, it's supposed to
I
have
always thought
designed
that
by
was the
Kurt
Mustang.
Cobain, but it was
Now, the
already
Mustang-
pretty used when I got it, so I didn't get the sticker.
That's the competition
Mustang.
stripe Mustang from
Man,
the Smells
those are
Like
nice
Teen Spirit.
guitars. You play guitar? You
Who?
play guitar? You.
Oh yes, for 20 years.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Courtney Love shit is the easiest stuff in the world to play if you want to start off playing. I've got
She still has
guitars.
difficulty with it.
Yeah, when they came to Houston and the people were requesting songs, and he don't know how to play that. He don't know how to play that. And my ex-husband's from what the hell's that town your dad's from in Ohio? Marion, Ohio. He was there,
Yeah, I
and
know
he
where
said
Marion is. That's where the
one
Supermax
of-
prison is.
Oh, yeah. Well, he said anybody can play that song, and I'm a drummer, and I could play that song. It was stuff like
Yeah.
Jennifer's Body. Nico Larkin couldn't play that. it was stuff like Violet. Well, I think he may have done Violet. It was some of the old stuff.
I liked
Yeah.
Violet, honestly. I hate to admit it now because
They
But-
couldn't. That Nico Larkin guy, bless his heart, he did the best he could. I guess.
Does any of the rest of you have any cool Nirvana stuff you want to show, or any stories? you wanna-
should I show the guitars real quick?
Yes.
Yeah, man, it's a celebration for Kurt's birthday. I
Dude,
don't
I
want
used
to.
to have
I don't
enough
want to like
shirts.
take it down a depressing road. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll stay off that subject, but I used to have enough Nirvana shirts in high school that I could wear a Nirvana shirt every day from the day of his birthday to the day of his
Yep.
death day. But
I was.
Real quick.
I had. There was one point. All I had was band T-shirts. That's all I wore.
I know,
Don't you
right?
wish you had kept them? Because they're all worth a
They're
fortune
all-
now, you
I
guys.
know.
Dude, college kids will pay $1,000 for a rock band T-shirt. Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
I got one little
I
thing.
see like sorority girls wearing Nirvana shirts, and I wonder, have they ever even listened to Nirvana? Or is it
No.
just trendy?
Nirvana
Like,
sweatpants and a matching sweat jacket from Walmart. Like,
yeah.
Yes, totally.
Like my
Yeah,
dad
there's-
is big
There's
on.
somebody I'm subscribed to on YouTube that she recently got I can't remember what band it was a t-shirt from, and I think she had never even listened to that
Yeah,
specific
yeah.
band.
Isn't that weird?
But then she did listen to them and really liked them, so understood.
Well, maybe that's a good thing then, that it brought her to good music. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I personally could never wear a band, because like the T-shirts you wear is kind of like it's like almost like a uniform, you know? Like it tells people who you are.
Mhm.
yeah,
I refuse to wear a band T-shirt from a band I don't listen to.
Yeah, like a lot of like Iron Maiden. That's one band that I see a lot of college girls wearing Iron Maiden shirts. Personally, I don't even like Iron Maiden, so I don't.
Right.
I don't wear Iron
I like
Maiden.
one song.
And
Run
the
to the
brand
Hills, I
is
think.
cool. The
I
brand is
I
awesome,
like the
but-
music. I just can't get down with the vocals. It's the vocals that kills it. You
It's
know,
that 80s style, yeah.
that 80s high. Yeah. Now some of it I like the band Death. You know, that's a great 80s 90s metal band.
Hey, go back and look at Dimebag Daryl in the 80s. What the
Oh,
leotard
yeah.
he was wearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Pantera got their start in a bar that is like right down the road from where I live.
Deep Ellum.
Oh, really?
Well, they actually got their start on Camp Bowie in a little bar on Camp Bowie.
You mean they were kind of like a weekly
Fort Worth.
kind of band, like
Huh?
they were like the bar band, like they'd play there regularly.
Yeah, this would be
Yeah.
before they would have even made it to Deep Ellum. You know, by the time they got to Deep Ellum, they were probably really getting somewhere.
Yeah, I had a feeling after you said one thing, I was like, oh, I'm about to be schooled. Here we go.
Well, it's just something you know if you're from here that's where they started.
Yeah, and here I thought I knew things.
Yeah, that's true. I know for many years they were almost like a Texas secret. Like they were really big in Texas, but not really anywhere else.
Pantera's fucking
Until
awesome.
Anselmo joined the band.
They're
That's
fucking
how
awesome. I love
Beyonce
that
used to
shit.
be too.
Yeah, they were. Still are, actually.
I got to see him during the Reinventing the Steel album.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got to see him during that tour or whatever. It was pretty awesome. Me and my sister. She threw a,
Didn't
she threw a dime
Dimebag
bag
get
at
killed in
Dimebag.
Ohio?
What was that?
Didn't Dimebag get killed in Ohio? I think my ex-husband said that near Columbus.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Are you near that Almarosa?
It's right up the highway, but they've actually torn it down. It was kind of cool what they did with the place, kind of in honor of Dimebag. They tore it down and put affordable housing there, like a big apartment complex with affordable housing. So I think that was their way of like honoring him, you know. But I made a video on Pantera, and I had a
That was a great
classmate.
video.
Oh,
Yeah,
you guys watched it? I didn't think a lot of people watched it, but I told the
cleaned my
story
yard
about my
that video.
classmate who he was there, like, and watched it, you know, and I'm glad that I didn't see it personally, but
Yeah.
I remember him thinking he was full of shit. Like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? You know. But he wasn't lying, man. He described the whole thing to me, and he had to carry a girl out. She was in shock. She just froze, like she couldn't move, and he just picked her up and slung her over. This is what he said anyway. Slung her over his shoulder and ran. Once they figured out that it wasn't, fake, because they thought it was like a part of the whole act at first. But if you think about it, that doesn't make any sense. Like, nobody would ever stage a murder during an act.
Have you ever seen Misfits in concert?
Well, if you go see Guar, Misfits, or something like that, then you're gonna see all kinds of crazy shit. But
well, I saw the Misfits singer get clotheslined while holding a note, and it didn't even sound like when you bump your throat holding a note. You know, like what Chris Cornell does in Audio Slave, I think.
You mean like clothesline for real, or like it was a part of the act?
Well, it was part of the act. They were doing wrestling moves for whatever reason.
Right.
Maybe they were wrestlers back in the day. I don't know. But yeah, it was very odd.
Jerry Only's a pretty big dude.
Yeah.
He definitely looks like he takes steroids.
Well, what's his name did? Glenn Danzig. But
oh yeah, they all did, man. That used to be real taboo. I was watching this interview with like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all these guys, and they were like, we all used to deny it, but apparently it's not that taboo anymore. Like, if a dude's taking steroids, he'll tell you. You know how you can really tell if someone's on steroids is if they're real vascular, like they have big bulging veins.
Oh, those are just ew.
Yeah, well, that's cause the steroid increases blood pressure. Yeah. A lot of those dudes get high blood pressure from taking the steroids. That's why their veins are bulging out, especially if they have a big bulging vein out of their neck. That's like a sure sign of steroids.
Unfortunately, you can't compete unless you're on them.
I was offered steroids recently. That's why I brought that
Did anybody read that book by Hank Harrison, Love and Death? I have bought literally 3 copies.
I've got it autographed.
I had 2 autographs. I sent one. My fiance, he is, he's been in rehab or a couple times, jail ordered, and I sent one down there.
You got a wild life, don't you?
I know it. I should have they used to tell me in school I should have my own soap opera. I'd give young and restless a run for their money. And he said that the other inmates were asking, "What are you reading? What do you read?" He said, "Courtney Love's dad wrote this book," and they said, "When you're done with it, I want to read it." And they left it there in the library, I guess. So that's good.
That's good.
But then this one I just bought recently, it's not autographed because one of them got torn up in the move, but it was. But,
well, it's not autographed because he would autograph them as they were sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to befriend him for about 6 months. Unfortunately, that was it.
I wonder,
Hank self-published, but he had the money to do it.
Courtney has never said anything about him dying, but I know she don't like him.
I'm still not 100% convinced that his wife didn't just get threatened and say exactly what she was told to say. I have nothing to back that up so don't think I have any kind
what
of
is it?
That
say that again.
Yeah.
Just being so suspicious of everything lately. Like, at first I instantly believed that there was no foul play with Hank Harrison's death because his wife came out and said like there was no foul play. He died in his sleep.
She said he died in his sleep.
Yeah. So I instantly took it as like, oh, well, that's his wife, And then it was probably like 3 weeks later when I started thinking, well, I mean, if Courtney Love was going to threaten him, wouldn't she threaten the wife and they would collaborate, kind of thing? Like, I don't know.
He's pretty
putting
old.
it outside of the realm of possibility, but I have zero evidence to back that up. Just saying.
Well, he had a stroke before.
Which books would be the best to read? The most authentic, because I know there's a lot out there that
do not read anything by Charles R. Cross.
Amen.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it has some good stuff in it, but you also have to know, like, he was so hung up on Courtney, like he would have.
Courtney Love created. He started out at the Rocket, which was like a Seattle magazine in the 80s and 90s. A lot of musicians found each other by posting wanted ads in the Rocket. I think even Slash from Guns N' Roses talks about that. Pretty sure it
Have
was
you
called
ever
The
noticed
Rocket.
he doesn't really write about anybody but Kurt? And somebody asked him, I read online, how come
It's
you
only
don't write
money he
about
makes.
how
Yeah.
come you don't write about Lane Staley? He was the powerhouse of the grunge scene. He said, that's just too much darkness. I don't want to go there. And I'm thinking to myself, no, man,
That's
you're on
weird.
the payroll as Courtney's minion. That's
Yeah,
why, because
yeah. Well,
Nancy McCollum
yeah,
won't
yeah,
pay you.
yeah. She totally had she played a huge role. Yeah. Okay. So to answer your question, Leslie, you have ever heard of the book Heavier Than Heaven?
Yeah.
Okay, that's Charles Cross. And Courtney had a huge
Oh, yeah.
role in that book. I mean, there's even a YouTube video. I think it's titled Kurt Cobain's Death According to Courtney Love or something like that. And he goes into detail in his book about details that nobody would know, like talking about Kurt being in the greenhouse and what he was doing in the greenhouse. And like nobody would know, but
That book
he
is
writes it all out
actually
like he knows, you know?
that's what made me explore the idea that Kurt Cobain was murdered. Was that
Yeah.
was the first
That
book that I read.
propaganda.
It was the first book that I read when I really got into Nirvana. And after I was done reading it, it was like, what the fuck was this?
Okay,
You
so
know?
interesting. In my conversation with Wallace, he brought that up, and I made a comment like,
Yeah, if you
"Yeah,
could send
man,
me a
it's
list
so
of the right
shitty
ones to
that he."
read.
I said something like, "It's so shitty that Charles Cross wrote all this bullcrap," and Wallace was like, "What just pisses me off that he sold more copies than I did." Like he didn't give a fuck that Charles Cross wrote all this crazy shit. He's just mad he outsold him, you know.
Money,
Tells you a
money,
little bit about his
money.
character.
Well, I mean, it is what it is, but don't read anything by Charles Cross. Every job he's ever got is because of Courtney and her connections. So you're not going to, bite the hand
He
that feeds
claims
you,
he
right?
met Kurt. I've never seen any evidence to support him ever meeting Kurt. He told some people in a
Really?
park. They said like they were at the
It is
Veretta Park.
possible because Cross was in Seattle.
Yeah.
It's
possible,
possible.
but I just wonder because he went up and they said, "Did you know him?" And he said, "Yes, I knew it." You know how pompous Charles talks and how like he's like a total like a geek.
Posh. Very
Yes,
like
and
posh. Like,
yes, I met him, and I'm thinking, man, you are so full of.
what
I've never
would be
seen
the best book? What do you guys think the best book would be? Maybe Love and Death?
Love and
Yeah.
Death. Let's
That-
see what I
That's the
got
one.
on that.
I love.
And you
the
can get
original
that all
Gordon
library, like
film.
public libraries usually carry Love and Death. Like I remember getting it out of a library when I lived in Colorado, and it's in my local library, so I'm sure it's like all over the place.
It's not on Audible anymore. It's not on Audible, and I don't think it's on Kindle. I'm looking at my.
Well,
Oh,
there's
and
a
there's a
video
YouTube
on
I
channel
can't
that
listen to
reads
books.
it. You can't
Yeah.
listen, you got to read. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
would,
have to read because listening to it, I would fall asleep.
yeah, I would
Oh.
check out your local library if you don't want to purchase it.
No, there's a guy on YouTube that reads it for free, and it's actually really good. You can handle it, I promise.
What?
That
Charles
guy-
Elliott? I watched that
Love
guy.
and Death. Yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about. It's SW Studios.
Yeah, and
He's
he
the one
actually
that-
does a really good job.
He adds the
Does, like-
commentary.
What
Yeah,
type of voice
yeah.
does he have?
I
Somebody
don't know how to
commented-
describe that, but
Somebody
it's
commented
good.
last night on a chapter of Come As You Are and said, "Man, you're so obsessed with Nirvana." I said, "Dude, the whole fucking channel's about Nirvana. Like, what
What'd you expect?
what'd you expect, man? Like,
Been
come
getting
on."
some fun comments lately.
Well,
I
gotta
like
tell you,
the
you put me to sleep with that last chapter like multiple times.
I need to like. I
Aw.
feel like I need to be more enthusiastic.
No, it's good. I love it. I love being read to.
And I like that
Me
you timed it
too.
and
Me
you're like,
too.
all right,
I
I'm gonna
listen
give
to
my 2 cents.
audiobooks.
The one
I
that's
listen to
really
that
good is
SW Studios, dude. Read Love and Death. Like
The Mysterious
not
Death
all
of
of it,
Kurt
but
Cobain.
parts of it.
I guess Tom Grant wrote this with Matthew Richard.
Oh, yeah,
Matthew
you gotta read
Riker.
that one. Yes,
Riker.
that
Okay,
one.
that's the one that comes up on my
Yes.
Kindle.
The
There's-
Mysterious Death of Kurt Cobain. That's the one. That's the
I-
best one.
I actually asked Grant
Yeah.
if I could write a biography about him, and he said that he would provide me with information if I wanted to write a biography about him.
About whom?
About Grant. Grant has
Oh,
all kinds
oh.
of crazy
Oh, God,
stories,
do
Yeah,
it.
dude.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Like
Yeah.
he's told me some stories about crazy stuff that he was involved in, like
I'm so glad
all
y'all
over the
finally paired
country.
up.
But what I was gonna do was like, I've already worked on this book, and it's like a mix. It's like a mash. What is it? Mismash, mix mash. I don't know what the fuck.
Mix
Lane
match.
Staley, Chris Cornell, Kurt. It's like the whole Seattle thing, but it's predominantly about Kurt Cobain. And I thought a neat way to start out the book would be like a little biography on Grant and how his life led to that. You know what
Nice.
I mean? Led to him encountering the whole Seattle scene and sort of like tie it in together. It's not
Gives him the
easy to write a book,
backstory.
man. I've been at it for quite a while now. But I found that if you break it down, like if you're trying to write a book, just break it down into a timeline and write piece by piece, just like, yeah, you know, this year in Seattle, this is the shit that happened. So write about that. You know what I mean?
There's
It's easier if you break it down into smaller sections. But
Yeah, as I've learned, you gotta chunk it.
according to Wallace, you like have to know somebody to get an agent or to get published. Like if you're a nobody, like you really have to find somebody, find somebody who will help you, because anyway,
What about who you know?
I wanted to ask you, Alan, where were you when you found out Kurt Cobain had passed
Oh
away?
man, I was actually hanging out with.
First, do you remember the first time you listened to Smells Like Teen Spirit?
I do.
Did it
I
amp
had.
you up immediately? What were you like?
Oh,
What is this?
absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
I think I was in the Boy Scouts, and I started dancing, probably quite ridiculous, because I was also listening to like MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice at the time.
Right.
I love Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, just the one song.
Well,
but
hey,
Yeah.
Hollow Waters, you're young. That should tell you how much Nirvana changed the musical landscape, that we were all listening to Vanilla Ice and then
and Michael Jackson.
Cobain, like it was a huge
The little
change.
teen-
I never listened to any of that poppy stuff. Ugh.
Mm.
I brought
I
that
had
up, though, 'cause
three
that's the
older
funnier
sisters,
stuff.
so
I think I probably at the same time burn out on Nirvana's Nevermind and Metallica's Black Album around the same time. But I was still just exploring music. Like when I first heard Nirvana, I didn't know who the band was that I was hearing. It was a tape from my sister I stole like to go listen to at school. And
I think that's why it was so profound of an effect on people, because they not only had they never heard anything like that, they didn't even know who it was. So they were like, "What the fuck is this?"
It was mind blowing.
Yeah,
I was pretty young when they came out. Like 94. God, what was I, like 5th, 6th grade, something like that?
91. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
91.
Not 90.
Oh, are you talking about when he died? When he passed away? By the way, can we not use the word suicide, because YouTube will put age restriction and all kinds
Yeah, I
of
was
stuff.
trying to avoid it earlier.
If you have to say it, just say the S word.
Can do.
Or just passed away.
Yeah, even like stuff like that. They've got a bunch of different algorithms now, not just one.
Ridiculous.
They even like do like facial expression and all this stuff. And they've really, it's not just me, man. I've noticed across the board. They've cracked down on stuff.
When you're watching your phone's watching you, and it can pay attention to where if you're looking at the left side of your phone, the middle, the up, down.
If you smile, yeah. But you do remember when you heard he passed away?
Yeah, I was hanging out with 3 friends of mine. There were these 3 girls. We were in junior high, and I think they had loaned me Nevermind. It was right before I think I bought it on tape finally. But they had loaned me the CD, and then I brought it back the next day, and they had told me he had passed away. So like I had already missed it. And yeah, and my friends were telling me about it. It was heartbreaking, because it was like, oh my God, so like I'll never have a chance to see him, like, and then it starts hitting like, well, forget about you, like he was a father, like his daughter, oh my God, it was just overwhelming. I mean, I got goosebumps right now just talking about it.
Yeah, I just got him too. It's like, you just found him, but he was taken away.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people felt like that.
He was taken away.
Yeah, Courtney's display of remorse, that looking at it now, it's like, how did I believe that? But in back then,
It was
just like I
odd.
knew something was off. Yeah, exactly. It was odd.
Some people do react weird to grief, but they tend to like stay within one range of emotion, you know. And she was just like all over the board, like up and down, you know.
Yeah. It was blaming.
Yeah.
It still is. Have you guys seen that article where she says that if he was alive now, she'd him and then kill him again?
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
She
yeah.
said, yeah,
She
I wouldn't
no
put that
shame.
past her.
She said first, I know she's disgusting. She said first I'd fuck him and then I'd kill him again. That's what she said.
I
I
really
need to
hate
put that in some kind of legal quote that she says, "Kill him again."
Well, the
maybe-
people that
maybe
want
I'm
to do
not-
this, I paid. Yeah,
Well,
she said
right.
that too.
Maybe I'm not paraphrasing it properly, but she essentially says if he came
Yeah.
back, I would kill him again because she's angry with him, for leaving.
right.
Here's the other thing about them too that I think people don't pay enough attention to is they were only together for like 3.5 years.
Oh yeah.
If that, yeah.
Yeah, when you've been in a long-term relationship, 3.5 years is like nothing.
No.
It's,
Yeah. I mean, how much
You
of
don't
that was
even
her
know
trying
the
to get out?
person. You don't even
Yes.
know them.
No, you don't even know them. Exactly.
That's why I don't understand when people are like, well, it's her money and she's the
Yeah.
mom, and I'm like, they really didn't know each other.
No,
Like,
and they were apart all the time. He was on tour, she was on tour. Yeah.
so imagine if you're with somebody every day for 3 years, you really don't know them that well.
Yes.
And if you're with them and
Yep.
months would go by, you know.
Mhm.
And she's
My wife and I have been together like over 10 years now, and we're still constantly learning new things about
That's
each other.
right. That's right.
yeah.
And like
Yeah,
I have
no
a former
shit.
boyfriend who I dated for maybe about 5 years. I lived with him for a few of those.
Yeah.
I never really got to fully know him. I just kind of went with the flow. I didn't want to create any fighting, and so I paid his phone bill. And it's like I feel kind of like Kurt did the same thing just to keep things
Yes.
going.
Yeah.
He didn't want to create any conflict, and so it is easy for a Piscean to get abused
Are you a
in
Pisces?
any ways. And
I
so
know
he
at
was
one
being
point he got
abused.
really upset about her using his credit cards
I almost feel like
toward the
you
end.
know-
That was one
you
of
know
the
they
things
say-
they supposedly fought about in Rome, was her going off and shopping with his credit cards.
Yeah.
Right.
So
'Cause she had to have the brand new car kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man.
It's like, you know, get what you need. But I think he started to feel taken advantage of toward the end, like, because she was
Mhm.
spending so much money. It was like, am I her husband or just an ATM? You know.
Mhm.
And she
Yeah.
actually said in the Vanity Fair article, now that I married Kurt, I get to shop every day.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
fuck, man.
They were
Yeah,
too
when
far
it gets-
opposites.
Yeah, when it gets to that point, you want to pull out as fast as you can. When I broke up with that boyfriend, I moved out the very same day that I broke up with him.
Well, I know a real easy way to see if they care about you would be to cut them off monetarily and see if they stick around, you know. But it sounds like you wanted to get rid of them.
My grandma's like that.
Yes,
I mean,
I didn't
she
have
was-
anywhere to go.
I've been there.
Wait,
Me
what'd you
too.
say? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. You didn't
Like,
have
I
anywhere
didn't
to
have
go?
anywhere to move to.
Yeah, if they break
Oh,
up,
I
where's she
see.
gonna go, kind of thing.
Yeah, because
I
I
think we've
moved
all
in
had
with
a
him
freeloader.
because my other landlord
Oh.
decided to sell.
Yeah.
So he was my only option.
Well, at least you didn't get married.
I'll be
Oh,
back, y'all.
thank
Don't get
God.
here.
I'm glad I never got pregnant from him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that would have definitely complicated things.
Hey,
What about you, Adrian? Do you remember where you were when Kurt Cobain, when you found out he was gone?
Yeah, I remember. I think it
Or
was
when
at
you discovered Nirvana? How about both?
both. I mean, clearly remember when I first heard "Teen Smells Like Teen Spirit." I was in the car, and like you guys were saying, like everything like we listened to, like MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice, and where I was in the Bay Area was a lot of rap music, which I like a lot. Snoop Dogg and stuff like that. But
Yeah, doggy
when you
hat.
heard "Smell Like Teen Spirit," you just I remember just like we were in the car driving somewhere with my mom, and just it went silent in the car. Like we all just, even my mom, we were just like, wow, who is this? What is this?
Yeah.
Like, it's that it was, changing moment in your life. Like, our house, we don't have a lot of musicians in our house, but the Beatles growing up that was a huge thing in my household. My dad's a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah, John, it seems like John Lennon was their Kurt Cobain,
Yeah.
You
the
guys,
previous
were
generation.
talking earlier about how Kurt Cobain was a lot like, you saw the similarities. The Melvins, and I was thinking Kurt Cobain and like stuff I've read about John Lennon. I see a lot of similarities in their creative process and stuff like that, and it's just, yeah.
Especially
So,
the softer acoustic stuff.
yeah.
The melodic. It was kind of poppy,
Yeah.
Like
I
the
feel like
Beatles were
before
pop.
Kurt Cobain, John Lennon was my Kurt Cobain. Like before
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain.
100%. Like John Lennon was like always trying different new things. Just like, I think about like Kurt Cobain and like the slapping the back of the guitar strings to get that sound out of the guitar, just little things like that. John Lennon used to put the microphone behind his head to get a different sound. He'd lie down and sing, like all kinds of different things just to see how it sounded, what if it would make it a different sound. And I feel like Kurt was like, doing things like that too. So, and when I heard that he had passed away, I think it was, at a soccer practice. People were talking about soccer practice, or I saw the thing on MTV. I can't remember exactly, because I feel like when I first heard it, I thought it was like fake news kind of thing. Like we hear a lot of today, like, oh, this person died, but they didn't really die.
Don't believe
I'm
it.
like, oh, whatever. And I think especially after it was right after the Rome thing. I was like,
there were people who reported he was dead back in March.
Yeah.
During the Rome thing.
I think that was Courtney's first attempt.
Yeah. And when you start seeing all the stuff on MTV, like, and when she was reading the letter and stuff, it almost took like a couple weeks to realize that it actually happened, and like for it to actually set in, and it being like super depressing. It was a sad. And then it's the same thing. It throws me back to my dad. I was born a couple weeks after John Lennon was killed, and my dad was he always it was kind of. I always liked the story. He would tell me, he's like, oh, John Lennon was killed, and it was like one of the saddest times of my life. And then you were born. Then he said, then you were born, and I felt better. So it was always a really sweet thing that he said to me. So, but I until
so you're John Lennon reincarnated.
Yeah, so I understand like the older generation. I mean, I have subscribers who are in their 70s who watch my channel, and they always talk about John Lennon and how John Lennon was their Kurt Cobain. Like that's who they related to, and they remember where they were when he was assassinated. I put it up there with a presidential assassination. Like,
oh yeah,
people
100%.
Remember, even if you don't remember the exact place you were, you remember the feeling, and like it seemed like there was a general mood in the air, like everybody was somber,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, 100%.
What about you, Danielle?
Well, I am a little bit younger. I think I was born in 85.
So he may not have affected you until later.
No, I probably was in like 5th grade when he left us.
Yeah.
And I just remember always knowing that he was gone. And I remember his voice, So it's almost like he did permeate the culture. He permeated the 90s for me. I could feel him like in the air.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Right. And then so when I was in high school, I think it was in 2002, maybe, they released You're Right. And it just rocked me really hard. And that's when I really just became a Nirvana, disciple.
I remember when that video came out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was VH1 or MTV or what it was, but there was almost like this dude, honestly, I remember the video that played right before it. It was Papa Roach. You guys remember Papa
Oh,
Roach?
Yeah.
Last
yes.
resort.
And then they were like a new Nirvana video, and I was like, what the
You're
fuck?
like,
New
yeah.
Nirvana.
Oh God, it was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I was waiting for it for like years because remember it got put off because Courtney Love like was all for it and then stopped it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. You know why
her
she
reasons
did
for
that?
stopping it, they were actually good reasons. I actually agree with her on that move. It was about making more money. That's why.
Well, she was also in a contract with Geffen and Universal Music Group, which is like a subsidiary of Geffen. She was supposed to produce more whole albums, but she didn't want to. She didn't like. She was in a contract for like 7 albums or something.
Yeah.
So she knew that if I stop this, then they'll let me out of my contract. She was like, I'm not going to let you do this until you let me out of my contract.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure she had more reasons than just that, but
Yeah.
that was a part of it. And Dave Grohl or Chris Novoselic has talked about how she used You're Right to get out of her contract.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, here, I have one for you too. Smells Like Teen Spirit. I did wear
Yeah.
that deodorant when I was a little girl.
I remember the
90s.
Teen Spirit deodorant. I
Yeah.
thought
Did it
for some
smell
reason
good?
I thought that was an
100%.
80s thing,
100%.
like
Did
into
it actually smell good?
Yeah.
like
it smelled good.
yeah, I associate like MC Hammer, Saved by the Bell, Teen Spirit deodorant, and Nirvana like all together, like in my
Yes.
child mind, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And then those crazy pants everybody wore.
The hammer
Yeah,
pants.
the
the hammer
parachute
pants?
pants.
Yeah,
Jinkos?
yeah. And there was like Bugle Boy
Jinkos.
pants and Jinkos. They were
Oh,
called
Lord,
skids.
Jinkos.
I think the Hammer pants were called skids, if I'm not mistaken.
We watched
That was
some,
like the name brand. Like,
we watched some American Home Video thing, and they were like, how to make MC Hammer pants, and they like poked 2 holes in a big black garbage bag and then like tied the waist.
Yes. Yes.
So of course I had to do that at least once, you know.
Yeah, my mom has a pair, and my cousin had to wear them during a camping trip one time because he didn't bring any pants and it was freezing cold. So he's like, "I'll get my Hammer pants on."
your mom had them left over from the 90s. Like,
Yeah, I think so.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's funny as hell. I admit it. I wore them, and I had an older brother, so I basically did whatever he did. You know,
I get that.
yeah, and like he lived in Louisiana during the school year, and then in the summer, he's my stepbrother. Anyway, so every summer he would come back to Ohio with like new cool shit, you know, and so I knew about the only reason I knew about Nirvana before Nevermind was because my older brother gave me the Bleach cassette, and the song that the 2 songs I really liked was About a Girl and Negative Creep.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Negative Creep,
Yes.
baby.
Yeah, Negative Creep at the end where he just screams.
Yeah.
I'd
And his
never
voice
heard
cracks, yeah.
anything like that before.
Yeah.
Like I remember putting it on repeat just to hear that screaming at the end.
Mhm.
And so I had an idea of who they were, but Nevermind was so different than Bleach that it was like discovering a whole new thing, you know.
Nevermind
yeah.
is my least favorite Nirvana album.
I honestly I like them all, but for different reasons.
Exactly.
You know?
Depends on my mood, really.
Yeah.
Kelly, I was going to ask you in a second, but I remember being on my grandmother's carpet watching MTV when that video came on. That Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I was just like glued to the set. Like, this dude is so fucking cool, you know. And I was highly influenced by my aunt as well, who was like an 80s hair metal chick. So I remember going to her as a kid and being like, have you ever listened to Nirvana? You know, but it's weird. Everybody I talk to, it's weird that a piece of music could just like instantly make you change.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like your mind opens or something, and you're like,
Yes.
this is different. I'm sure that's what John Lennon did for people
Yeah.
when they
Jim
heard
Morrison.
him, or Jim Morrison,
Morrison, yeah.
Hendrix. Like,
Mhm.
there's not too many people in that category, really.
Yeah.
But and then And then yeah, when he passed, I was in class, and I remember the teacher crying. She was only in her
Oh.
20s, and the whole class got, even like kids, it was weird because even kids who had no clue who this guy was, they seemed sad about it. You know what I mean? Like everybody seems sad about it. Like people were aware that the world lost something great,
Uh-huh.
you know, even
Yeah.
if they didn't get it. But Kelly, do you remember at all?
Yeah, so as far as first hearing Nirvana, I was in foster care from Pasadena from 90 through 92, and there was a lot of older girls that were in it was a house, with an older lady, real good foster
Like
mom.
a
I didn't
group
have the
home? Oh no,
Yeah,
it
but
was
it
a
was through
foster house.
CPS. Yeah. But I had a really good older lady. I didn't have the evil foster home story. I loved foster care. And so
That's
there
good.
were, yeah, there were older girls. Maybe they were already 13, 14, and I was about 3 to 5. And I remember when Nevermind came out, because they had a back room and they'd always put their music on so loud. And I was still into New Kids on the Block, and they put this on, and they started giggling. So cute, he's blonde. And I heard him in the back, and I remember the foster mom going, "That's enough, that's enough." And they said, "No, no, you gotta see." And she looked at the album cover and she said, "This is awful. This picture is awful." And we covered up so Kelly doesn't see it. A little kid, she didn't want me to see that. And then as far as when he died, I remember Courtney Love being in the news all the time for something
Yeah.
ridiculous. And there was a lady that ran a resale shop down the street, and she had a daughter named Courtney. And I would always, for some reason, when I heard her name, I would always think of Courtney Love with those bug eyes. Like you know how she used to have in the 90s before she had all the surgery? She had the big old
Yep.
bug eyes, and she just looked like a slob. And I just remember that. But then I was homesick from school, either that or playing hooky. I don't know. My mom worked nights, so she didn't adopted mom. She didn't always care if I went to school. I went to a Lutheran school. I still go to church there, so she kind of, they were kind of flexible about it. And I remember her turning on the news. It seemed like it was the noon news, and it flashed up on there that he had died, or it broke in. It was mid morning to noon. Something broke across the news.
Yeah.
Leader in Nirvana died, and I've always had some medium abilities. Kurt's appeared to me in dreams before. Lane is a lot more prominent. I know this sounds psychotic, but
No, you don't.
You
I'm
have
into it.
dreams
Tell me
about
about it.
Kurt Cobain?
I do. He's not like a guide for me. Like they'll say, if you ever watch those spirit box videos, I love those. There's one called Life to Afterlife or something. Craig is the guy. He's got like an hour-long conversation he's going with Kurt. And one of the things he says is, "Do you have any regrets?" And he said, "Not getting to spend a night with my girl." And when I heard that, I thought he meant Kristen. And it was Kurt's voice. Like some of this stuff is so sophisticated. Now, I just wonder if some of them are like skewed to their beliefs, because some of them will try to say that he's saying that he did, you know. But some of them actually come out, like Sloan Bella's another good one. She came out and just said what we're saying, to put it politely.
I heard
But
that she I know who you're talking about. I heard that she claimed Chris Novoselic did it.
I
No,
think he's
she didn't.
clueless about it all.
No, she didn't.
You see how rumors get started.
You should watch it, Charles. It's an
I
easy
what the
watch.
Spirit ITC, yeah, it's really good.
You should post the links after this.
Yeah, I had one here that's Craig, this guy, he made a movie. It's just like talking, but
So you can never believe I'm positive
that's what
someone had commented and said this Slumbella chick is saying Chris Novoselic, you
No,
know.
she didn't.
So
No.
she's
I'm
pretty
not
she's
saying
pretty
Sloan
blind.
you
Bella's
can't always
100%
trust
telling the
comments, you
truth
know.
either, but
Yeah.
she didn't
She
say
doesn't do Spirit ITC. She's like just a psychic medium, but some of them that have
Yeah, but
gone
I
on
want to
there
know
with
about, you said you had a dream about Kurt Cobain.
Oh yes, yeah. So I have more about Lane Staley. Lane is more. He's more interactive. Let's just
Dude,
say.
let
Lane
me
can
tell
be.
you just real quick. I have to tell somebody this. The coolest thing that's ever fucking happened to me. Nancy McCullum, Lane Staley's mom, fucking emailed me and said my video made her cry.
Hell
Oh.
yeah, that's
Oh
awesome.
man.
Really?
Like
Me
that
too.
was like a huge, because I didn't know, because I've never tried to contact her, but she'll reply to anybody. Like if you email her or write her, she said it might take me 5 months to do it because so many people write
Yeah,
to me, but eventually I
Wow.
will get
After all
back
these
to
years?
you. And
it probably is how she stays close to him.
yeah, but
man.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just when you said I have dreams about Lane, it just popped up in my head.
Oh
And
yes.
it kind of like brought a tear to my eye, man. Like, shit, this guy's mom said that my video. You guys know the one I'm talking about. I hope
Yep.
the
Yes.
unplugged video. And I
Mhm.
was like,
Oh, unplugged. I thought
wow.
you meant the one about him and his dad.
Mm.
That's pretty
Um,
sad too.
Yeah, my
Actually.
sister
I
told me
need
about
to.
that years and years
I need to
ago.
email her because I named my baby that's almost 2. His middle name is Lane, and she likes it when people name their kids after him. So
Oh,
she
really?
always said she likes to hear that. I've read that somewhere, so I need to tell her that, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But so Kurt, and I know this is going to sound awful. Lord, I apologize. I'm not really a Soundgarden fan. My fiance is. He loves them to death. Saw them. Had tickets to whatever Soundgarden when
I
before he
find
died.
Chris
Got
Cornell to be
refunded.
underwhelming as well.
He is not my cup of tea. Neither is I can't stand Stone Temple Pilots. I can't stand Bush. I think they're fake grunge. I have this opinion that if you're
See, I
not
feel
from the
like that way
Pacific
about
Northwest,
Pearl Jam.
you ain't grunge.
I
I
don't
like
like
Yes,
Pearl
Pearl
I'm
Jam.
Jam, but I
not.
love y'all anyway.
I'm not big on them either. There's some things, but anywho, right after Cornell died, I had a dream where Kurt was. They were in a room. Lane was there. Of course, Lane starts talking because I know this sounds psychotic. Lane's always the one that, like in the dream, grabs me and says, "Come on, I got to tell you something." And I said, "What now?" And he said, there was Chris Cornell. He was sitting in a chair, and there was all these old chairs, like church-looking chairs. And Chris was sitting there with his head down like this. And him and Kurt were off having a conversation. And I said, "Why don't Kurt talk?" And he told me to tell you, Chris didn't do this. There's more to this than you know. And I said, "Oh, come on now." And he said, "Well, you know Kurt didn't do it." And I said, "I know. They even said you said that." He said, "We know that, but there's something Chris is scared and he doesn't know how to transition, and Kurt's helping him cross over." And I said, "Well, why don't you go over there and help them?" And I'm more like the mediator. I'm the translator or whatever. And Kurt, I don't think Kurt really said anything to me. He just looked over to me kind of like that. But there was just this, when I have medium dreams, it's a telepathic. My mom appeared the other day. She died in July. Telepathic sort of thing. You don't get to, my kids asked me how it works when you communicate. You don't get to ask anything in your dream when you have a visit. It all happens by
It's
itself.
not
You
like
don't get to say
lucid
Yeah.
dreaming. It's like
you don't
I've
get to
had
say
those.
so.
Yeah, I've had those too.
Visitation.
every
Lane
time
hasn't.
every time
Yeah.
I figure out I'm dreaming and then I try to like control what I'm doing, I'll wake up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I've
Kurt,
never had a dream about Kurt Cobain. You would think I would have, with as much as I
Oh.
talk about the guy,
I've
Mhm.
had
but I've
two.
never had any.
I've
I've
had
had two.
probably two as well. Kurt is not someone
yeah.
that is a how do I say it? He's not very friendly in the afterlife. I've seen, I've actually channeled him, or actually how it works for me. I'm Native American, so this stuff, I didn't ask for this, but my birth mother was murdered, and this came when I was 4 years old when she died. It just came out of eardrum ruptured, went deaf in this ear, and I got this ability. And you don't ask for it; it just comes, and they'll sometimes pop in, and you can recognize their voice. Sometimes you have to ask, "Who is this?" And you'll get stuff, And mainly it's dreaming stuff, or you'll see a picture. Like I watch crime shows, and somebody will be missing, and then you'll hear, I don't know if it's prophetic, maybe, or um,
That's wild, man.
that person is. Like I
Are
was
you talking
watching an
about when you're
unsolved mystery.
dreaming or like
No, that's
daydreaming?
that's that's real life. Sometimes I'm watching like unsolved mysteries, and somebody was missing,
Yeah,
and then
these.
you'll get a vision. You'll get the vision of what happened and what the perpetrator looked like. That happened with one lady that was on there before the
Wow.
segment. I was a little kid, and before the segment, and no, I'm not schizophrenic. My
What's your
fiance
zodiac
is.
Well, if
sign?
you were schizophrenic, you'd see it
I'm
in
St.
real life,
Patrick's Day.
not in your
St.
mind.
Patrick's Day, Pisces.
Ah,
And my
there you
my
go.
grandmother has this ability as well, and my well, she's dead, but my dad's mom also was a medium, a Native American. It's a weird thing, but
So is this
Kurt
like a
is not
common
friendly.
belief in Native American culture?
Well, technically, I'm
Uh,
Native American too.
yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of us
Is it
have
so?
stronger.
Well, a lot of Pisces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been contacted
I,
by like ancestors that I've never met.
so I'm not trying to make light of it, but in the Native American culture, wasn't it like the thing where they would take hallucinogenic stuff and then like
Not
I
That
don't
was
do
just
all
everybody.
very
that.
late
no
on.
DMT, DMT.
I think
There's
you
DMT?
might be
there's
I
Yeah,
so
talking
don't
many
do
about
all
different
the
that.
cactus.
nations.
What's the cactus that you eat? Peyote. I think he's talking
peyote.
about
Yeah.
peyote.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was
peyote.
actually
Oh,
like
I've
in the
heard of
last
this.
like 100 years almost, it seems like when they adopted peyote. Peyote came late in the history of Indians, I believe.
Yeah. Is DMT the stuff that like it doesn't last very long, but they say like you see your whole life and
Um, well, I
If you
read a
take it
book
with
in high
ayahuasca,
school
I
about
want to
it.
try it just like one
ditto.
time. Like,
DMT.
Doesn't our
yeah.
brain
I
make that?
always wanted to try it too, but it's supposed to be really intense. And it's not, they did studies on it, and it's like anyone that does it has this like spiritual experience where you
Yeah.
meet like entities and all of this shit.
But they seem to
Yeah.
meet the same ones, so that's what's trippy.
Supposedly when
Right.
you
Well, it's
really
like spirit
die,
guide.
your brain produces DMT. Like when you die, in the process of dying, your brain will produce a shot of DMT. And
Oh,
it's
is that like
supposed to like calm you
that's
and
that Epstein Island adrenal chrome?
oh God,
Uh,
let's not get into
Okay,
Fair enough.
okay.
Danielle, did you say
I
you
don't know
had
what
a
DMT
dream
is.
about Kurt Cobain too?
I've had 2 dreams about him.
Let's hear
And
about one of
and
them.
I would consider him a spirit guide. I mean, I don't want to bore you guys, but like I met the father of my 3 children's at a Melvin's concert.
Awesome.
The guy I'm with now was like born the same day, same year as Kurt. It's just he has just really changed. He's just been a very powerful influence in my life.
Well,
But
tell him happy birthday.
thank you. Yeah. Oh, he's jealous. He's like, "What about my birthday?" But
Yeah.
no. So the first dream, I was walking through a courtyard, and it was all in black and white. And I looked up, and Kurt was on a balcony, and he just waved at me, and so I just waved back. And that was like almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then the last dream I had was pretty recently, and it was almost like an alternate timeline. Like he was still alive is the deal. He
Oh,
was
that's
alive,
crazy.
and yeah, he was alive, and he was just like kind of like not nearly as important, and he was totally happy with that.
Yeah.
You know,
Dude, I'm a huge nerd, man. I watch all kinds of documentaries, and when people start talking about like string theory and alternate universes and
yeah,
infinite universes, I think, man, that like, so this is the only universe where Kurt Cobain passed away young, and in all
yes,
the other universes, something
I
else
hope so.
happened, you know?
I hope so.
My mom thinks he's alive.
Oh, you mean like Elvis is alive kind of thing?
Yeah, like well, we're trying not to go into that far crazy that different topic, but she believes into a lot of that stuff, and she wants to she's telling me that he's alive.
Well,
And
his
I'm like,
Unfortunately,
spirit's
I kind
alive.
of feel like you're just telling me what I want to hear.
yeah.
My grandma
Well,
knew Elvis. Okay, and she came.
unfortunately, I would bet you anything that music would be a lot like I think that rock would have continued to be predominant for many more years, because it kind of seemed like after Kurt, some people got into metal, most people got into hip hop or rap, and that kind of like took over, like,
Yeah, it was
and
like
it's still to this day, rap is kind of like the predominant thing. I think if Kurt would have lived on, we'd have had a lot more rock bands.
well,
It's
at the
just
same time we
sad.
lost Kurt, we lost Pearl Jam because they were fighting Ticketmaster, and we lost
Yeah.
the Smashing Pumpkins because he was doing Ava Adore, and
Did you
I
did you
did.
guys watch that Rick
Yeah.
Beato clip I posted
Yeah.
where he was like, "Oh, he stole my guitar sound," but
Yeah,
which big? I'm like, come on, man.
that was a good video.
Really? I,
Yeah.
I I'm just saying, for me, it seemed like Billy had animosity, because even Rick tries to laugh about it and like shrug it off. If you haven't watched it, watch it.
You can hear the animosity when he's talking to Howard
Well,
Stern.
and he's
He's
looking
like,
at
well,
him
he
like
took my
with this
girlfriend and
serious look on
da-da-da-da.
his face.
Mhm.
He's basically saying that the success of Nevermind was something he created, and then Butch stole it from him
Oh,
and,
give me
and
a
applied
break.
it to Nevermind. Yeah.
You
He's
know,
a wanker.
if you think about Nevermind, Kurt did that on a whim to just so he could get the creative rights
Enough
to do
money
something
so
like
he could
In
do what he
Utero.
wanted to do, which
Yeah.
is what he did in Utero.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Billy
like,
and I
I'll
have
play
the same birthday, but it's
who?
crazy.
Billy
He's got-
Corrigan?
yes, and so does Melissa Optimore, but St. Patrick's Day. But Billy's rising sign, something is off his charts. That's he must have Aries or something, making him extremely narcissistic.
He's a very
Yeah.
narcissistic guy.
He's
You,
got the
I've
he
seen
shot or
video of
something.
him interacting with his fans and not being very nice to his fans. He's like the guy that has to have the last word. Like, I'm smarter than you are, and I have to have the last word, or he's
Yeah,
not
like Max
happy.
Wallace.
Yeah, that's the impression I got from watching him interact with his fans. And he's to me, he's just like female Courtney Love, man.
Yes. Oh, they're so perfect.
Yeah, they're like definitely two sides of the same coin, which is
Yeah, seeing
probably why
interviews
they
with
fight
Billy, you
and
can
get it.
see it. Yeah.
Okay, so Charles, where
up?
were you? Where were you
Yeah.
when Kurt passed away?
I was in did any of you guys all went to elementary in the States, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Did any of you during your homeroom or first period class ever watch Channel 1 News?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember Channel 1 News? It was
Vaguely.
like yeah, it was like 15 minutes, and it was younger people.
Yeah, it was like kids news.
It was kids news. It was news for kids. And so this was my first period class, which I think it was math. And funny enough, that teacher ended up being the principal at my boys' school. But anyway,
Mhm.
Small world.
yeah, she was probably like barely out of college. And it came, so I didn't find out until Monday, right? His body, he was found what, Friday, April 8th? And
It was
then
3 days later. Yeah.
so so it was like April 11th when I found out. Man, I was so isolated as a kid. Like, we lived out in the boonies and my parents were hermits. So anything that I found out through other kids or school. And I remember it coming on Channel 1 News, and like the whole room just going really somber. And I remember my teacher sitting at her desk and crying. And she and which just made all the other kids sad too, right?
Of course.
But I don't know, I think I was about 12 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, the only reason I really knew this guy, I think I was around 8 or 9 when my older stepbrother gave me that Bleach cassette. I used to listen to it while I was playing basketball in the driveway.
Yeah.
Remember, everybody had them boom boxes with the handles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to listen to Bleach while I was driving in my car on headphones. My car radio didn't work. So
Yeah.
I used to listen to it on headphones.
Been there. Oh, the boombox.
Yeah, dude. Oh, what is that? Is that like a Panasonic or is
Well,
that
I mean,
is that
no,
a
I just had a
remake or is that
Walkman.
like old school?
It's old school. I bought it at a garage sale. I got a couple of them here.
I
Oh, there
came
you
ac-
That's a
go.
thing of beauty.
That's a
Yeah,
nice
I
one.
don't.
I came across an old Panasonic tape deck like that. It wasn't that
Hey,
big.
you guys, they call that a ghetto blaster.
Yeah,
you know, you
that's a
walk
ghetto.
around.
That's a ghetto blaster, man. Drummer to Skeleton Witch. These guys in Skeleton Witch grew up in my town, and he used to always carry a boombox around listening to Misfits. But anyway,
They need to upgrade to the all yellow one.
yeah,
A little lighter.
I had one very similar to that.
Yeah.
I came across
remember
one
the
at a
video.
Goodwill for like $9, like
Yes.
mint
Yes.
condition.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy it. And I'm like, why didn't now I'm like, I went back like a week later looking for it. It was gone, long gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, on the dream thing, I want to say I've had 2 dreams, but I can only recall one, and it was like kind of the theme to. Do you ever see that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he goes to Mars and in like
Hell
the
yeah,
Fuck
dude, Total
yeah,
Recall.
dude.
So
Total
for me it was Total
Recall.
Recall, but you get to go, but it's like visiting the past. Like you wouldn't be able to change it really so much as you're just there to experience it. I guess
Yeah.
kind of like the chronovisor, if anybody knows what that is. But yeah, and I would end up watching the show and then ultimately sneaking around back like I always try to do. And then I get to like befriend Kurt. I think it's the same dream twice, honestly.
Yeah.
That was really cool to hang out with Kurt, even though it was in my imagination. But
Yeah.
I wonder why I've never had it. Have any of you, the rest of you, ever had dreams about? You have? I've never had. What did you dream about?
So with mine, I was kind of almost going into like a sleep paralysis type thing. Like I was drifting.
I've had
away
sleep
from the
paralysis.
world
That's
almost.
terrifying, dude.
Yeah. And so the song Michelle by Guns N' Roses, the creepy
Yeah.
intro with the was
Yeah.
going. And right when the drum
I'm really shocked that
big
you know that
drum-
song at your age, honestly.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of 80s rock as well.
Yeah.
But
Love
right
it.
when the big drum beat was about to go down, it was the sound of a shotgun. And then that's when I woke up and I'm like, whoa, whoa. Like it was really, really weird. And I'm like, and that's kind of when I was like randomly like, what if this happened to Kurt? Like, so, coming up with a random theory. And then the thing that really got me was the fact that it was Michelle. Michelle's Courtney Love's middle name.
Courtney
That's
Michelle.
awesome.
I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
Good one.
it's the thing with like any sort of psychic dream I have.
So you didn't see
Really-
Kurt in your dream, but you
I
thought
didn't
about
see
him.
anything. No,
It made you think
I've
about
had
him.
dreams where I've seen him, but they weren't like any sort of psychic dream or anything like that.
Yeah, I've never
But
had
like
one of
with
those.
my psychic dreams, there's usually like one thing that's like sort of off about it that, it'll come true in life or something like that. And I'm like, the thing that was off about this dream was it wasn't like Courtney, it's Michelle,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've wondered about that
Interesting.
before. What if they called her Michelle? What if Kurt called her Michelle? You don't know.
Or Hank. Yeah.
Mhm. I think Hank probably did call her Michelle.
I gotta be honest. I knew that Hank sprung her out of wherever she was and took her to Ireland, but I always assumed she was only there maybe a few months and then she took off. But Hank told me, no. She stayed with me off and on for 3.5 years. And I didn't really believe him, to tell you the truth, because he was a tough guy to believe. Like he would tell you some crazy shit,
Yeah.
So when he was telling the truth, you never knew, But then when I talked to Wallace was like, oh yeah, they were very close. He showed us all kinds of stuff, like,
Yeah.
So when she says things like, I don't know my dad, I only met him once, or we barely talked, it's like, what is she hiding,
A lot.
Everything.
Yeah.
I
Do you
thought of a
remember-
good nickname for her with her middle name, with her personality and stuff that she's done violently. Machete Shell.
Yeah.
Would be a
Do
good
you know
nickname for
that
her.
the that prosecutor from Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, they publicly released Epstein's flight logs, and she was on there. She had been to his island, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Well, we won't go down that road. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I'm not gonna ruin this video.
Well, I think it's interesting that
I think
Kelly
it's
said
very
that,
interesting.
that Kelly said that Kurt is not very friendly in the spirit world. And we're all like a bunch of Cobainiacs, and each one of us has only had dreams about him like once or twice. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
What he is, and this sounds so psychotic.
Maybe
what
he's not
totally-
satisfied because his life got cut short. You know.
He wants
Maybe he's
justice.
astral projecting and he's not dead yet.
Right.
Next time
Smile
you
a
see him, play
minute.
some video games with him.
Yeah, he was
I
big
still
in the
have
video
NES.
games.
I still had NES.
He had
What's
Me
a
too.
I was reading an interview where of course, like, you know, when these journalists in the 90s would go interview bands, they wanted to talk to the singer or Kurt or Chris or Lane or whoever. But throughout the whole interview, the journalist is talking about how Staley ignored him and played his Sega Game Gear. One of those little handheld video game things, you know. So yeah, apparently he was very big into video games. Some of the stuff I learned about Lane and like how, for example, how Nancy sat down and had a conversation with him when they found him was actually through Tom Grant, because her and Grant used to talk. I don't know if I've ever shared this or not, because Grant doesn't talk about it. And the reason he doesn't talk about it is he said he doesn't want to like use her celebrity status. You know what I mean? Like he respects her private life. You know what I mean? So Grant, of course, he'll talk to anybody. I know Danielle's talked to him. I'm sure you guys have talked to him. He'll tell you things, but he won't say them publicly. And a part of it is out of respect for certain people. But anyway, what I'm getting to is she told Grant a story about Lane before Lane died, and it had to do with Charles Cross's book. I should have mentioned this way earlier, by the way, when Leslie was asking what books to read. Lane read that book, Charles Cross's book, and this is all according to Nancy, to Tom Grant, to me, okay? Lane came to her after reading the book, and fuck, for all I know, this could be public knowledge, so stop me if you already know this. Lane came to her after reading Cross's book and said, this book is bullshit. Like, I just talked to that guy. He wasn't suicidal. Half the shit in this book isn't even real, you know? And that was like huge to me, coming from Lane Staley to his mom, you know,
Yeah.
because he would be honest with his mom, right?
Yeah.
And that's why she ended up contacting Tom Grant, was because Lane told her this book is bullshit. And I don't know what year that book came out, but whenever it came out, Lane went to his mom and talked to her about it.
Yeah.
And that
I remember when Lane died. I was in high school when Lane died. So
that was like 2004, was it?
probably that sounds about right. or maybe-
2002.
Okay.
And it was like the same day that they found
And
Cobain.
I go to Seattle and I've gone to Kurt's house and went there. So many darn people, you know, there's that fence. You can't really see
Did you
much
get a
of
weird?
anything.
If you
No, thank
are
you,
into
God. Thank you,
this
God.
sort of spiritual stuff, you probably got a weird feeling being there. I did.
I did.
When I-
It felt very, the energy was very, stagnant. It was very dark. Lane's condo, I've gone to every time.
next year.
Yeah.
Can-
My friends
can we
lived
see
like
her?
5 doors
pilgrimage.
down from where Lane's condo was on University Way.
By the Petco.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there was a little gourmet restaurant called Blue Onion Bistro, and a Whole Foods there too. That's where my buddies would go and buy their shit, because they were all a bunch of vegans and vegetarians. But anyway, when they took me there, it was me and my friend Tristan, and we couldn't go up. Like, at that time, there was no wall where the driveway is. If you look now, there's a huge wall. But we walked around the curve, because it curves, and in the driveway was a couple young Asian kids playing basketball. So we didn't want to be creeps, right? We didn't want to like walk up in their driveway or stand there and stare at them because they were little kids. So we just continued around the curve to the park and went up to the bench. And I swear we just like stood there in silence for like 10, 15 minutes. And then I looked at my buddy and he was like, I don't know what to say. And I was like, man, do you feel, it was just like this feeling. I think it would only happen to Nirvana fans if they just after seeing this on the news and thinking about it for years and years, and then you go and look at it in person, it has an effect on you, So
Kind of
I
an
can't channel
essence.
anything personally. I have like no psychic ability,
We
but
went to Aberdeen.
but I did have a weird feeling when I was there.
My ex-husband from Ohio, her husband was a high, big lawyer for Boeing, and they lived in Mercer Island, and so we stayed with them the first time we went. My 10-year-old was a baby then, so we drove to Aberdeen.
Yeah, Boeing's
Two
in
hours.
Seattle, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
And
in
they,
Houston also.
But I think their
oh,
main
I don't ever
headquarters
go to the
is
airport.
in Washington.
Well,
I'm
I
not
go to Hobby
positive.
when I fly to Seattle, but anywho, we went to Aberdeen and we went into this comic book store, and there was this old man, and he said, "Where are y'all from?" And my mom said, "We're from Houston." And he said, "You here looking for Kurt Cobain stuff?" And she said, "She is," and he is, my ex-husband. And he said, "Well, Kurt and Chris work for me. Uh,
Oh, wow.
like hauling furniture, like warehouse or delivery." And I said,
Cool.
"What was he like?" And he said, "He was so petite. He was so skinny, and he had real blonde hair." And he said, "But that Chris was tall." He said, "You think he's about 7 foot?" I said, "Close to it." And he said, "Kurt was lazy." He said, "Chris would do all the work, and Kurt would just stand around and, just stare. And he'd
Yeah.
have to tell Kurt all the time, do this, do that, now do this." And he said it's like he was in another world. But it was like they had Star Wars. I don't like Star Wars. My ex-husband was into it, but we went down there and drove around and things like that. Went to Montesano. My mom wanted to stop in, of all things, and buy some air freshener at some shop, a drugstore, nice little drugstore in Monty that they had. And there was a restaurant called the Beehive or something, and we ate there. It was like a old stuck in time diner. I think it's gone out of business by now. So, but yeah, we went there and we did all that in Aberdeen, and we drove back. I liked Aberdeen a lot. I would love to live there. I know they say there's nothing to it. I thought it was a very nice town. It was, the highway, and then the water's on one side, and they had that Lady Washington, which they said was in Pirates of the Caribbean. Because I'm obsessed with ships, and you could tour, but for that day it was closed or something. That Taco Bell that when you come into town, they said is the one that Chris worked at. That man did tell me that. Just a
Oh,
moment.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of
Him
what
and
else
okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But we
Yeah,
went
I
to
think
Jimi
you mentioned
Hendrix's
it in a
grave
video.
right when we got off the plane, because his aunt was asking us what's taking us so long. And my mom said, "We're doing the Dead Celebrities tour Kelly likes to do." So that's what we were. So we stopped at Jimi Hendrix. Now that was a trip, Jimi Hendrix, because they were smoking, what, there at the grave. And it's illegal here in Texas.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, the rest of the world don't care.
yeah, and we got there, and I told his uncle, who's a lawyer, I said, they were doing such and such. He said, "It's legal here." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, there's shops all over that sell it in Washington and Oregon." I didn't know that.
In
But I've never
Ohio,
been
all
in.
you got to do is say your back hurts, and they'll give you a medical card to get marijuana.
No, I am allergic to that THC stuff. I've learned that the hard way. So with that stuff, they, gummies and stuff, that killed me.
Those
So
are much more powerful if you eat it. It lasts longer.
I was having an out of body experience.
Yeah.
Missed it.
Oh, can we end on a good note? I got a good little story to tell.
Go ahead, man.
So it was a cool little connection that had him bring me closer to bring me and my mom closer together. You know that song he used to sing as a kid? He loved it. I think it was like Arthro Guthrie or something.
The
I
motorcycle
don't
song.
want a pickle. I just want to ride my
Yeah.
motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't want to die. You know that one?
I've honestly never heard it. I just remember reading about it.
When I was
I've
a
heard it.
kid, my mom showed it to me on vinyl, and then like 20 years later, I found out that Kurt liked that song. I just
You want to sing it, Alan? Let's sing that shit.
It's on about a son that it's on Prime, Amazon Prime, about a son where he's like talking and there it's like.
Hey, I've never watched that. What is that about?
it's
Have
pretty
you guys
good.
watched
Watch
About a
that.
Son?
It's Michael
Yes.
Azarad's tapes that made Come As You Are.
Oh, I did not
It's
know
on,
that.
you have
Mhm.
Amazon Prime, you may get some
Yeah,
commercials
yeah.
or something, but I watch it while I'm cooking sometime, just to hear Kurt talk.
That's cool. I will have to watch it. I thought it was just like some independent person who did something that Courtney would have hated or something.
Last Days is pretty bad.
The what?
The Gus Van Sant Last Days, now that's an independent. I don't
Gus
like
Van
it.
It really
Sant?
didn't have much to do with his death, really. It was just like
Mm-mm.
somebody's obscure idea of it, really, I
It was
think.
more
Walking
artsy or
around in
something.
circles in
Yeah,
a
very
garden
artsy.
is the whole thing.
Oh God, fuck that.
I don't
I do
recall any
honestly. I
words to the
think
film.
Brad Pitt would make an excellent actor for a Kurt Cobain. Well, maybe he's too old now, but I think they look a lot alike, and I think Brad Pitt's a good enough actor that he could have got it right or closer than anybody else. Maybe I don't know.
Wasn't that what Courtney said she
I
liked
don't-
about Kurt? Was he
There
looked like
there
Brad
will
Pitt?
be a Kurt Cobain movie, dude. It's just Courtney might have to pass away first, but
Yeah.
eventually there will be a Kurt Cobain movie.
Has anyone noticed that
They just got
Francis
around to
and
Freddie
Courtney?
Mercury. Like
Yeah.
Francis is
Francis
what?
and Courtney do not follow each other on social media anymore, and that started after Isaiah Silva hired Tom and came out saying that he heard Wendy say, "Shut up or you're next." I read the whole case file.
Yeah, I remember
To
that.
Brianne or whatever her name is, a half sister,
Yeah.
and I noticed they don't follow each other anymore. She used to say like "Happy birthday, Kooks McGee." She called Courtney Kooks McGee. Oh, that's you
Really?
failed as a parent even when your child calls you that, or your child
Yeah.
calls you by your first name. You have failed. And I've tried to see if they follow each other. Courtney may follow her. I don't know, but it seems like they've just cut ties altogether.
I hope. I pray.
Yeah, that sounds like a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who would get your child addicted to drugs so you could take over their finances, oh my God, like really?
Dude, I was so even though it was Courtney Love, when I came across her lawsuit, she actually like wanted to sue Francis to maintain the rights of Nirvana until Francis was 40. Right.
That is not a good mother.
And I thought, my God,
Yeah.
like, even though it was Courtney Love, I felt like she still crossed a line. Like, that's your kid, man. Fuck. I have a longtime subscriber named Heidi that she's like real into Francis. And whenever any new stuff comes up about Francis, she always sends it to me. And she hasn't sent anything in a while. I thought Francis like kind of vanished from social media.
I hope she's
She's
getting
dating.
clean.
She's dating Tony Hawk's son, and I didn't know his son was a skater. But my fiance, we met in high school. He's a really good skateboarder, and he said, "Oh, his son is really good too, Riley."
Mhm.
Yeah, I bet.
And I said,
Yeah,
"I didn't
Riley.
know his kid skated." He said, "Yeah, he keep up with."
Oh, he
his
grew up
dad,
with a
you know,
half pint in his back,
Yeah.
a half pipe in his back.
Yeah,
I always
my
call it a
husband told
half
me he
pint.
builds those things.
And
Yeah,
you know why I call it a half
skate
pint?
ramp.
People gave me shit about that too. When I was a teenager, all the cops would chase us, and if they caught you, they'd take your skateboard and break it in half.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're talking like these decks are like $100 and something bucks each. So parents got pissed off about it, having the cops, like, imagine a cop, like if you were an adult, a cop wouldn't just come up to you and take your property and break it. Like, what the fuck? So
Right.
enough parents complained. that some money was put together and they built a little area for all the skateboarders to skate, and it was all made out of pine wood. So we called it a half pint, like half pine. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And I just
Yeah.
said, I've said that my whole life. And I said it in a video or something, and people are like, "You're an idiot. It's a half pipe, not." But anyway,
The reason people say negative comments is because those are more likely to get a reaction from you. Just
yeah,
ignore them.
yeah, I know.
You know,
Sometimes I fuck with them just to get a rise out of them. Sometimes I ignore it.
years ago, when I was in high school, we had MySpace, and there was
Yeah, I
someone
remember
on
I
there.
was
MySpace.
friends with Francis on MySpace.
I was
No
too.
shit.
You were
And
too.
somebody
Nice.
and she would talk to us, and then she'd say, "My mom doesn't want me talking to nobody. My mom does this, and my mom does
Wow.
that."
And she only
And
wanted to talk about her art. Like she
yeah,
didn't want to talk about her dad.
Mhm.
and I thought it was just somebody at school said, "You're not talking to Kurt's daughter. That's a fake. That's a fake." And I said, "No, it's really her. I've seen it's really her." But she would, if this was really her, she was saying stuff like, "Oh, my mom doesn't want me on here. I just don't have, I don't get to do nothing, and my mom does this and my mom does that." This was over 20 years. She was a little kid, I
How
guess.
could you try to censor someone when you do the craziest stuff anybody does?
Mhm.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like,
They say Frances had surgery. I don't believe that.
I
yeah,
think so.
yeah, that's true.
At a pretty young age
Yeah.
too, like somewhere between
What
9
do you
and
think she
13.
had? What do you think she
Yeah.
had done?
Definitely a nose job.
Her
maybe some
nose
chin
and her
work.
chin. Yeah. Yeah.
To look less like Kurt, or
No, to look more like
Look
Kurt. 'cause
more like him. She
some
looked
people
more like,
oh,
speculate was that
if you look
Billy's
at,
baby?
yeah, if you look at early pictures of Courtney Love and Hank Harrison and look at early pictures of Frances, she looks a lot like Hank Harrison in the nose.
Courtney had
and
his
the chin.
nose, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
You know who paid for Courtney's first nose job?
Eric
You guys-
Erlandson.
Yeah, Eric Erlandson.
Really?
She chanted.
Okay,
She
Adrian, we'll see you.
chanted.
See you
Bye,
guys.
Adrian.
Everybody's
Thank
going
you
one by
guys.
one.
Nice meeting you all.
Yeah.
It's good talking to
care.
you.
Yeah, she was
Leave a
saying that
link
if
to
her
your page.
Oh, I will. I'll put it
Thank
in
you.
It's
there
called
right
A
now.
League of Her Own. If anybody's interested in buying, trading,
Oh, I love that
selling
movie.
cards,
Yes, thank you.
it's
Thank you.
it's a YouTube channel called A League of Her Own. Yes, like the old Tom Hanks movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only that was a league of their own, wasn't it?
Oh,
Yes, exactly.
you're right.
All right.
Well, hey, it was good talking to you.
It was awesome. I really enjoyed hearing everybody's stories. It was awesome. Yeah, you guys all take care. I'll put the link in the chat there, and you guys have a great night. Thanks.
All right.
All right. Bye, Adrian. Oh, whoever mentioned Snoop Dogg earlier, this is actually pretty good. Unless you're underage, don't drink.
Cal, what is it? Wine or?
I think it's a white, like a white bubbling wine.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's made in France. I mean, yeah, no, it's not made in
I
France.
don't know
So
much
it's not a
about
champagne.
wine or champagne or anything.
Honestly,
I
man,
was a
I've had
whiskey
some of the most
drinker.
expensive ones that you hear all the rappers talking about, and I can't
Yeah.
stand them. And there's nothing like
Yeah,
spending
like Hennessy
$1,000
and
to
stuff.
find out you don't like that
I
bottle.
want to try that guy from Tool. What's the heck's his name?
Oh, Maynard James Keenan?
He has a wine.
Maynard's
his
from
band,
Ohio.
Pucifer. Is that
Yeah,
the
he's
name
got
of
a
the
band
band?
called. Yeah,
I
he's
can't
got a
say
band
that
called-
word. Some of that stuff is hilarious.
It's
His
more like
band-
theatrical. They do a lot of weird cartoony stuff. Like it's real weird.
Dude,
He
one
did those
of my
country
Maynard's
songs.
mom dated my friend's dad
one of my friends here in
before she
Austin,
died.
he does a lot of the like the set building and the roadieing kind of stuff. Like he's like a professional rodeo basically.
Yeah.
And whenever we talk about like you were talking about earlier, musicians who are really like mean to their fans, I have heard, I haven't seen, but I have heard that he is one of those people that's just like
Yeah.
not cool to be around.
Yeah. Like
That's
I didn't
sad, 'cause
even
I
get
really
to
like his
meet
music.
him. My friend Ryan's dad, Jerry, went to college with Maynard's mom. They're from Ohio, from Ravina, Ohio. So they were college sweethearts. And then much later in life, I probably shouldn't put their business out there, but Jerry ended up hooking up with her again before I think she died in 2008 of cancer, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Anyway, she had got Maynard to come to Athens to meet Ryan and his dad, and my friend never told me. Like, he knew that I was a Tool fan. He never mentioned it to me, right? And there was more to it than that because his dad was still married to his mom, right? But Maynard doesn't like meeting people. Like, he was coming to meet Ryan because it was his mom's boyfriend's son, but it wasn't like a thing where he could be like, well, my friends are fans of yours. Can they come meet you too? You know what I mean? Like, I've even heard that his ranch in Arizona, when fans show up there, he shoots them with paintball guns. And like, if you've ever been shot by a paintball gun, it's kind of painful if it's a hardcore paintball gun.
Yeah, well, that's why there are lots of celebrities who move out to where there is nobody because they want to be left alone. They want peace for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Maynard fucking hates Ohio. Like I had the feeling he grew up in a small town in Ohio, dude, and he was a strange kid. So I got the feeling he probably got picked on a lot, right? Or bullied or whatever. But I've heard him say things like, I hope you burn in Ohio.
Like, oh God.
You know,
well, with all that acid rain, you might now.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna have to read about that. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
man,
I'm sure they're not gonna
be safe,
admit
man.
everything, but I need to figure out, like, that is
They
scary.
will,
I
but
didn't
if-
at first. I wasn't worried about it, and then when I heard it traveled downriver, I'm like, well, fuck, the river comes right through here, you know.
Think about it, man. They keep calling it the America's Chernobyl. I think when Chernobyl happened, I think I was 3 years old. I think it was like 86. And I vaguely remember my mom telling me I couldn't play out in the rain, which was a big deal for me because I always played in the rain.
One of the main chemicals that spilled when it's mixed with water, it creates hydrochloric acid, which is the shit that you put in your drain to eat away.
Yeah.
You know, like Drano. So it's basically like Drano in the water supply.
Yeah, they were like poking at a like a stream at the bottom of the stream, and then it would come up like bubbling up like acid, like from the
eating it
movie
away
when the Joker fell in it. You know, does
Dude,
not
they
look like
think
something I
water
would think
pipes
is
get
okay
that
to.
stuff in 'em?
mind blowing. Well, the concern is that it gets into the water table. You know, your water supply. Then
Yeah, very quickly too.
I think we're far enough away that it won't really affect us, but nobody should be living in East Palestine right now.
No.
That's for sure. It's just
Absolutely
mind blowing to me that that movie came out and then like almost the same thing happened, like a train wreck, dude. If you watch the movie, it came out like 2 or 3 years ago. The exact same thing happened in the exact same fucking town. It's like
You
it
know
was
what?
predicted. It's so weird.
Anonymous put out a video that showed like at least 3 or 4 instances of that exact same thing, including that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if I can find it easily, I'll try to post it in our little chat here.
Okay.
What was Tom Grant like?
His mood changes, man. It depends on it. It just depends. He'll like tell you he gets really excited about things like because he has tons of recordings nobody's ever heard, like tons of conversations with Courtney Love, right? And her just saying really nasty shit about Kurt Cobain and talking about money and like all those things. And he'll get all excited and be like, yeah, I'm going to send you a recording no one's ever heard. And we'll make this video. And then like a couple days later, or even a couple times I worked on the video and I'm like, all right, send me the recording. And then he'll change his mind. Nah, I decided I don't want to release that publicly. It's like, you think he's going to cooperate and then he changes his mind. And I finally just told him, look, Tom, you're clearly not going to give me anything that I haven't heard or read before. I like you. I consider you a friend. But as far as cooperating, unless you give me something new to talk about, there's no point in it because everybody already knows everything, you know?
Yeah, we've already talked about it. Yeah.
And Wallace said that Tom had actually told him and Ian that they were going to get to hear things that they never got to hear. So it's like one of those things like, does he really have them? Yeah, I think he does. But for some odd reason, he always changes his mind. I don't know why. Maybe he honestly thinks the FBI might actually do something and then he would hand it over to them. I know Tom wrote the FBI. Like when the FBI released the files on Kurt Cobain, one of the things that was in those files was a letter from Tom Grant.
Yeah, I think I wrote them. I think I wrote the FBI in college. It
Oh,
was
really?
not a professional letter by any means.
You know
Yeah,
what?
I
If
never
about
heard,
a
I never heard
million
anything
people
back.
wrote the FBI about Kurt Cobain, they probably would do something about it.
That's what
You
I
know
was
what I
thinking when I
mean?
wrote it.
Like,
You know?
I couldn't believe, like, I started that petition. Only like 6,000 people signed that. What the fuck, man? There's like a million people who think this guy was murdered and they won't sign the petition because they don't want anybody to have their name. Like,
I
nobody's
wouldn't be
gonna
surprised,
fuck with you, you know?
Courtney. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few that are afraid Courtney might fuck with them.
Yeah, but like, what's Courtney gonna do? Go down the list and fuck with every single person? Like, come on, man. If she's gonna fuck with anybody, it'd be Tom Grant. You know?
I think, honestly, I think it'd be you. Unfortunately, like I pray not, but
Tom is.
Uh.
There are tons and tons and tons of people who've never even heard of my channel, but they've heard of Tom Grant. You know
Oh,
what
yeah.
I
I
mean?
find it ridiculous that like at that time that he did interviews, he did those recordings, like secret recordings. It wasn't legal.
Yeah, he recorded everybody. Like, I know in Soaked in
Yeah.
Bleach it says I got really curious about her because she was lying, so I started recording her. No, he recorded everybody. Like,
Yeah, I heard
every
he's got quite the stash of
conversation that ever
tape.
came through his office, he recorded it.
Yeah, well, then
Okay.
they were saying that at that time it wasn't legal to do that, but that makes
Yeah,
no
in
sense.
California it wasn't legal unless you had both
California is
parties.
like the first state to like approve everything.
Well, they have celebrities who live there. So, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
they're going to protect their celebrities, right? Because everybody's trying to get dirt on the celebrities to put it in their magazine or whatever. It makes sense to me.
It's not going to work for too much longer because they're all coming here to Texas.
I know a lot of people have moved to Austin. I have
Hmm.
heard that.
Rob
They're moving to
Schneider.
Houston too. Ooh,
Yeah.
Rob Schneider, you got my
Yeah,
attention
Rob Schneider
now.
finally converted to a Texan. Yeah.
I know he's married, but she better get out the way. No, I'm just joking. No, we got him. We got so many California and Florida. We're getting New York plates here. One
Yeah.
of them from Minnesota the other day. I went to Panda, took my son to Panda Express, and it was, you know, it was in a kind of yucky
What's
area.
Panda Express?
Chinese
it's a-
food, fast food place.
Yeah.
Good.
Y'all don't have that there?
Nah, not that I know of.
Oh,
Not in Pennsylvania.
but anyway, this man, there was one of these big old boulders as you'd go into the drive-through, and he cut me off shooting across the parking lot to get over there to Panda Express. And I told my son, I just had a root canal and I was just kind of out of it. And I said, that guy's in a hurry. He shoots up, cuts off everybody in the drive-through some way. And when he's done getting his food, he runs this Minnesota plates car up that boulder and gets stuck in the parking lot.
Yeah, that's
I don't know how he
that's like
finally got off
instant
it.
karma.
Yep, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
And he was out there trying to move this rock. I bet you it was 100. It's like a decorative thing in their like little garden. He was trying to move it. Skinny guy, young kid. He couldn't move it. And my son said, "You think we should help him?" I said, "No, let him call AAA."
Yeah.
No, he got it, but he had that car teetering on one wheel at that. Oh, we get
Nice.
them all the time here. They don't know how to drive. They just,
Mm.
you know.
So
But,
I live in a college town, so there are constantly transient people from all over the world.
Mm.
It's actually a pretty neat experience because you know, I grew up around people all different ethnicities and creeds and
Mhm.
you know, so it's like if you go outside of my city, it is you guys ever watch that movie Gummo? It's just redneck city, dude. It's like trailer parks and real conservative rednecks. So as long as you're within Athens near the campus, very progressive, liberal kind of place. But once you go outside the city, man, you're in the fucking hills. It's interesting to see people interact like from like when the rednecks come to town and interact. It's funny. But anyway, a lot of the Asian students, we have a ton of students from China, and they don't like really drive there, right? Like they have a lot of public
Bikes.
transit and bullet trains and all that. They all live in city, not all of them, but anyway. So when they come here, their government will give them so much money to go to America and study. They take their best and brightest, and they'll be like, here's $1 million, you know, this is for your rent. So they don't have to work, right? Any money that it's like a grant. So any money that they don't spend goes back to their government. They'll come here, they'll get off the plane in Columbus, take a taxi to like a Lexus dealership or BMW or whatever, buy a fucking $80,000 vehicle and drive it to campus. And they've never driven before. So you can imagine the amount of wrecks and shit that we have around here, man. Yeah. Okay. That's why, you know how people are like, I know people don't like stereotypes, but people always like make fun of Asians and say they're bad drivers. It's because where they're from, they don't have to drive. They have so much good infrastructure for public transit.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. They usually say it's the Asian ladies, but it's really like
no,
most of the
it's
Asians who are
the
in
men
the
and the
city.
women,
Yeah.
dude. And
Yep.
yeah. And they don't care because their government is paying for their education, their car, their apartment, everything. Like we have whole apartment buildings in town where you can only live there if you speak a certain language.
Oh wow.
You know, they try to like, so they feel at home, you know, they're around people that they can communicate with. And it's a really, like Scott was, when Scott came here, he was kind of tripped out. Like I think he was expecting what you think of when you think of Ohio, and he got something totally different, you know. So he was like, it looks like Harvard, man. It's all the red brick buildings and red pathways and shit.
I think it was his channel that allowed me to find yours, and now I watch yours and not his. Don't tell him I said that though.
Yeah, he got really big, didn't he?
Yeah.
I liked him. He's Canadian, I think.
Yeah, he's from
I like most
Toronto.
Canadians.
Another one that I used to watch was Jordan the Lion.
Well, he
He's
told
young.
me he did a collaboration with somebody called
He's
Adam
from
the
Ohio
Woo.
too.
Like
Adam
I
the
know
Woo?
about him too. Adam the Woo.
The Woo,
The Woo.
like WOO.
Mm-hmm.
Dude apparently has like 1 million subscribers or something, and he did that's what blew Scott's channel up, was he did a collaboration with this much bigger guy. So yeah,
I like Lamont.
I'll tell you the
Edwards,
truth, I was
too.
surprised he even stopped. I didn't think he was going to come, but
I'm glad he did.
yeah, he was a pretty nice guy, man. Like he didn't seem much different in real life than he is on his videos, you know.
Cool. Well,
I
I'm
did
glad
argue with him about Courtney a little bit, but he didn't seem very willing to listen. Like we didn't have a lot of time. Maybe that was it, but he kind of seemed like he had his mind made up, and no matter how many facts you threw in his face, he wasn't going to change his mind. You know?
I honestly just
Like-
conquered the exact same thing with my wife last night. She was just like some of my other friends who were just like, oh, there's Alan and his crazy conspiracy theories again. And when I finally got her to sit down and watch just one video with me, the intention was to watch 3, but we didn't even make it halfway through that, and I had her hooked. And then by the time the 3 were done, she was like, but what can we do? So she's already not just
right.
like,
What can you
come over
do?
to my side, but she's like ready to be proactive. I'm not sure how much of y'all have heard of this, about a possibility of Courtney Love being dosed acid as a toddler or an infant or a newborn. From what I recall, it was somewhere between newborn and 3 years old. But I heard she was dosed with acid, and I want to say that before Hank passed away, he had confirmed some of that with me. Oh shoot, we're recording. That might have been
You
private
think he
talk.
put it in his book?
He told me that he didn't give her acid.
Okay. Well, I mean, what parent would admit to that, you know, especially to somebody who makes a living telling people stuff online.
I don't know, man. Courtney's family has a big history in San Francisco. Like they don't just have wealth, they have prestige, like
Oh,
their
yeah.
family name they were like friends with the San Francisco mayor, and
On her mom's side in Europe, wasn't like didn't she have like some
he
relatives that hung out with the queen or something ridiculous like that?
I don't know about that, but
I could
he
be
hung out with
overselling
the
it.
prince,
Oh, maybe that's what I'm. Oh,
pedophile prince.
yeah, that wasn't a booty call.
I knew that she was somehow involved with Epstein the moment that she said Prince Andrew stopped at her house. People do not just stop at your house that don't know you. Like, come
At
on.
2 a.m, you're right.
Come on, man. I this is crazy to me, guys, and tell me if you see anything about this. None of her fans are talking about the fact that she lied to them again. She told her fans, I never knew Epstein. I don't know how he had my phone numbers, my addresses, and it has been released that she flew to his island.
Not just that, she was
Why
in
are
his
her
book
fans
several
not talking
times.
about this? Like,
When she would move or change numbers, she would update him. She was in his book like 3 different places.
yeah, Annie had her name circled, like on a page that nobody else was circled, which is kind of
Why do
weird.
you think she moved to London? I
She's
heard
always
from
been liked more in England than America.
If you want to hear
Oh.
the far out conspiracy side, I'll tell you.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you
Probably
tell
wants
me
to
'cause I
spread herself more. Spread,
Okay.
spread.
I've started enough shit in America.
All right, well, I'll start some then. Why not, right? No,
So there's a rumor on why she went to England. Is that what you're
yeah.
saying?
So there's a rumor that she was kind of taken out of Europe or England, and gone to go do some stuff that nobody would ever want to do for some Asian people for about a year, and then she was plucked out of there or rescued, or her time was up. I don't know. By, I forget, it was either FBI. Yeah, I think it was an FBI agent. It might be the same one that those heroin dealers killed later. Oh, I know you know his name. It was like the only one in Washington that had been killed in 20 years or
Are
something.
you talking about
Antonio?
it?
Detective.
He wasn't an
Harry-
FBI agent though. He was a
Yeah.
Seattle cop.
What was his name?
Antonio Terry.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Or
thinking
Terry
of.
Antonio.
Okay.
Something.
Well, then it's 2 different people. Y'all have to forgive me. I have a brain tumor. Plus, some of this information is like 20, 30 years old.
John, what's his name, man? I made a video with him. The author.
John Potash, Drugs as
Yeah,
Weapons Against.
Potash.
Love
John
it.
Potash.
Love it.
He talks a lot about Courtney working for the CIA, but he never showed me anything that would really, like, all his information came from Hank Harrison. And
Yeah, I was
like I
gonna say,
said,
Hank
Hank,
Harrison,
you don't know
when I
whether
was
to believe
talking-
him or not.
Yeah, when I was talking to him, he was kind of hinting towards that might actually be true, but he would never say anything about him. He only talked about his friend. God, I wish I could remember the name.
I could see Courtney doing a lot of those things, but working for the CIA, fuck, man.
Why would
Dude,
they want to work with her?
But then again, she
because-
was obviously in cahoots with Epstein, and he knew a lot of powerful people. So
And-
it's hard to
and
tell
think
who
about-
she knows.
Think about all the things that she does. Like, how does she control people with the exact same tactics that the CIA was using at the time? I forget the guy's name. I should know this one. But they went to this college and they got this professor, and they got him thinking that LSD was the greatest thing in the world. And then they'd send him and the Merrymen off to wherever, but it was only ever to places where there were being like riots, or it was like poverty and all these areas that they didn't like. They don't seem to like poor people. And they seem to be very racist in their actions, they, if you want to call them that. But yeah, they seem to go to an area and then get everybody hooked on drugs, and then all of a sudden, people
All
aren't-
governments have been doing that forever, dude.
I know.
They,
So it's
have you
not
ever
like it's hard to
read
believe.
about the opium wars? Like England fucking fought a war against China because China did not want to allow England to import opium, right? They were bringing opium, and they basically had a whole country of people enslaved and addicted to opium, which is, heroin. You just smoke it.
Yeah, I think we
And
did
China
that.
made it illegal. You can read about it on the internet, bro. China made it illegal to possess opium because they didn't want their people addicted. And in comes
Exactly.
the British, and basically starts killing them, saying you're either going to let us sell opium to your people or we're going to destroy you.
You know who the biggest
Yeah, it's called the
distributor?
Opium Wars. You can
Yeah,
read about it, bro. It's crazy.
yeah. I'm
They did it
pretty
to the
familiar with it.
blacks in the 80s. They
With
introduced
crack,
crack.
and they did it to
And
the
then
gays with AIDS. Yes,
in the
this is the
90s, it was OxyContin, which Courtney is
yeah,
friends with the family that owns OxyContin. Crazy
and
shit.
now
That's
it's
another
well,
question.
yeah, that's why she was always handing them out. Like when she got Jack
She,
Osborne
yeah,
hooked on it, just so
yeah.
she could
Why
join part
is
of the TV
she
show.
why is she always posting about how much damage this this heroin oxy or pill pharmaceutical family has
Yeah.
done to her and just smear campaign?
I've
What is it with
noticed
her?
I've noticed that whenever people she's associated with come under heat, she'll immediately start talking shit about them like she doesn't know them.
Yeah,
She tries to disassociate herself
and she
because
does
the
a lot of
Sachs family
projecting.
was sued. You guys might know more about this than me. The Sachs family created Oxycontin. They had this huge
Yep.
marketing campaign to they were giving doctors bonus checks. If you write so many prescriptions per month, we'll give you a $50,000 bonus check, right? So doctors are writing oxys left and right. And I think it was just like over the last couple years, they were sued and they had to pay out all this money. Then all of a sudden, Courtney's talking shit about them, because she doesn't want people to know. Is the same thing with Epstein, man. Like every time somebody comes into heat, she'll say, fuck them. They're terrible. This is terrible. She doesn't want people to know that she's involved. I wouldn't doubt it if she had
I'm like Bill Gates.
bought like stocks in the Oxycontin, you know what I mean?
Oh, I could see that.
And another story I know about Courtney, since my grandfather's a infamous screwball lawyer in New Orleans. He lived next door or two doors down from Trent Reznor. He pointed out the house
Oh,
too
really?
in the Garden District, and he said some famous singer, and he's born in like 47. He's doesn't know music that much, and he said it's from a small town in North Louisiana. So he said 2-inch nails or something about nails, and I said 9-inch nails. He said, well, their singer lives right there in that blue house or gray house, and he's always sitting out there writing something. He's always just sitting down, or writing. What you think he's writing? And I said, probably music. You think so? My grandfather was kind of, I don't know, inept on stuff, but he told me that because he knew it. But one time I really liked Courtney's music, and he said she come into town one time. She wanted to buy a house in this Garden District here, and she wanted to record her album or did or something here. And the news got around, and a bunch of people didn't want her living there. And he said, "Well, they plumb run her out of town.
Yeah,
They didn't
I
want her
wouldn't want
here."
her
And
my neighbor either.
he asked me if she had ever been with Trent Reznor before, and I said I think she was hung up on him or something. Yeah, and he said, "Well, maybe that's why she wanted to live here." And I said, "I don't know,"
Probably wanted
but
to
he
stalk
said,
him.
and he said, "But they they ran her off. She wasn't able to do it. She wanted to move to New Orleans." He said.
What were you saying, Charles?
You
I'm
guys
sorry.
know who Roz Rozabek is?
Yes.
You guys, okay.
Roger.
He was actually very talented at one point in time. Like his band was very popular.
She killed it
And
for him.
yeah. If you watch Courtney Love Behind the Music, Kat Jelen says, well, Courtney thought there was going to be a music explosion in either Seattle or San Francisco, and she chose San Francisco. And then if you watch the E! Entertainment documentary, Roz Rozabach says that she followed him. He moved to San Francisco. Courtney came and stalked him, busted out his windows and shit, broke into his apartment, stole his dog or his cat.
Lit his bed on fire.
No, I think that was James Moreland. But
oh, you're right.
I'm like,
sorry.
damn, if I can get this guy to talk about this would be great. So I sent him a friend request on Facebook, and he accepted the request, but he doesn't read my messages, man. I think he'll just accept anybody's request because I've messaged him like 4 or 5 times and he hasn't even read them. But if I could get
I
that guy to
talked
talk about when Courtney followed him to San Francisco and stalked him and shit, that'd be great.
I talked to him on MySpace years ago because I'm obsessed with his song Pyramids Babylon. It's in Kurt and
Hmm.
Courtney. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Man, that's a good song. He has
Hmm.
a couple of songs. He has another one called Bounce or Shake or something. They were both in the movie. Anyways, I was asking him how to get my hands on that single because it seemed to be out of print, and he was telling me I didn't bring up Courtney or nothing like that because I could tell how
Yeah.
angered he got on the movie, about her.
Well, you know how like if somebody reads your message, it usually has a check mark or something.
Yeah.
Like that hasn't even filled in. So I don't even think he's opened them.
Well, you can look at it without viewing it by pulling your screen down from the top. You know what I mean? You can
Oh,
bring it down
really?
and see what. Yeah,
Dude,
you
I don't
can
even
get like
have
a
a
preview.
phone. Like I broke my phone months ago and I was like, fuck it, I don't need a phone. I got
Some
I
people
got
make
2
accounts
kids.
and they just never use them.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, he just recently accepted my friend's request. Maybe it was because I mentioned Courtney, or maybe he doesn't. I mean, I was just straight up with him. I was like, dude, I want to talk about Courtney and the time she followed you to San Francisco. I figured if he talked about it in another documentary, he might be willing to talk about it again.
I wouldn't
But
put
he
it
hasn't
past her.
responded.
I wouldn't put it past Courtney having everybody fill out those like several page long. What are they called? It's basically don't say.
Non-disclosure,
Yes, thank you.
agreement. Dude,
Non-disclosure.
she is
Yeah,
infamous
form.
for those.
I know. So I wouldn't
12
put it past
pages.
anybody she's ever met has probably had to sign one of those by this point. Like,
I think he knew her early enough before she met Kurt that that wouldn't have been going on. Like, well, unless she was like paid him off and said never talk about our past, then yeah, I could see that.
Because like in Kurt and Courtney, he gets a little pissed, like he's about to start like exploding. He's like, I'm sorry, So
yeah,
maybe
he gets freaked out.
talking about her, like anytime it happens, he
Yeah.
gets all like, "Ah."
Remember
like,
when he
he-
said, what the fuck was the quote? It was a great quote about Charles Manson.
Yeah, something about that.
Like
Ah.
he says,
remember.
a kinder, gentler Charlie Manson is still
It's
fucking
still
Charles
fucking
Manson.
Charlie.
Yeah,
He said-
That's the way
he
he
said he'd have
referred to
been
Courtney, dude.
I think the
something
best
like a
Courtney
June
reference.
Cleaver.
I think the best Courtney reference was in the Comedy Central. They would do the roasts, and it was a roast of Pamela Anderson, and Courtney Love was leeching off of her at the time because Pamela was big in the news. And so Courtney Love's there, and I forget the guy's name, but he goes, Courtney Love,
She married some regular
you're
Joe.
like the girl
Did you know
next
that?
door. But what's that?
Pamela Anderson married some construction worker, like just some regular ass dude.
Oh, I might have heard something like that. But yeah, they say, Courtney Love, you're like the girl next door. You just happen to grow up next door to a methadone clinic.
Yeah.
And it was probably the best line in the whole roast.
No, there's a new documentary about, she's real old now,
I could imagine, yeah.
And she hasn't aged well. She looks very bad, but
Even
What?
with the surgeries she's had.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
plastic doesn't age well usually.
yeah. But there's a new documentary with her on Netflix, and she was talking about how she married this construction worker that came to her property to work.
Hey man,
Thought that was
wherever
funny.
love happens, I'm all for it.
They already spread the sheets.
But like she always, usually hooked up with like famous people, you know what I mean? Like Tommy Lee and Kid Rock, and I think Johnny Depp at one, I don't know, but
Maybe nobody wants to hook up with her now. That's famous.
she's,
Well,
yeah.
Nobody can be let around her really. Like think about how much they control you once you've signed a contract to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's
poor
true.
Britney couldn't even like go on a date with her husband.
Yeah, that shit was crazy, dude.
I would have shaved
You
my head
guys,
and
you
cracked
two up in the corner, you guys need, if we do this again, you guys need to talk a little more. Are you guys just shy or what?
I'm tired, but it depends on my
Yeah.
mood sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. Are you old enough to drink beer yet?
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, see, just get some beer. That'll loosen you up. That always loosened me up. When
Loosens me up too much.
yeah, Yeah,
I
that's
had
true.
I had a karaoke business while my wife was attending vet school. We were living in the Caribbean, and I bought a karaoke business off of another. They called us VIPs if you were there with a student. I bought the business off of another VIP. But even when I was doing that as a professional business, like every at least 3 nights a week, I still had to have at least one beer before I went up there.
Yeah.
Very
There was a
self-conscious.
point in my life where I wasn't very social. It's kind of surprising that I have a YouTube channel because I used to like not even be able to like talk to people unless I drank alcohol first, you know. So I don't know. Hey man, you said you have a brain tumor. Is it like inoperable
No, they can cut
or you
into
had
it.
one, but
No, it's still there, unfortunately. And we were actually going to go get it measured to see if it's still growing.
is it
But
just
then
benign? Is that what they call it? Benign?
it's I say brain tumor because it's easier to say than explain what it really is. It's called a colloid cyst.
Yeah.
Um,
My stepsister had to have one removed and she had to learn how to talk again, walk again, everything. She's
that's what
Like,
complete
I'm
she's completely
where's the
fine
tumor
now.
located?
it's right where the spinal fluid goes from the spine into the brain. So it's in the middle, like
Oh
dead center of
fuck.
the brain. Dude, if I
Oh,
send you a picture of it, it's like it scared me. I was agnostic for like 20 years, and sometime in the last 2 years, I I found a connection with God again through, believe it or not, through all of these like murder mystery things, like connections between Cobain and Kennedy. Who would have thought, you know?
And watching the spiritual videos on it and all that.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a picture of it, Charles.
yeah, I have
It looks like a
epilepsy.
demon. It looks like a demon holding my tumor. And I wouldn't have even had to tell you that for you to look at the picture and see it.
That's
Like, you know how
crazy.
yeah, you know how a gypsy holds like a crystal ball,
Yeah.
but it freaking looks like a demon is holding a tumor. I know that sounds ridiculous. Kelly, I hope you can feel me because I know like 3 years ago, if you would have said some of the stuff I heard tonight, I would have been like, okay, whatever, but I'd have been nice about it. Um, but I wouldn't have believed you. And after everything I've seen over the last couple of years, I feel like they've just really been unloading a lot. Um, and everything I've seen over the last years, I believe you 100%. Honestly, I was reading you like a cop would. I was watching your eyes, and you were recalling information. I could tell because you were looking to the left most of the time when you were doing that. Usually, when you look up to the right, you're trying to create. When you look to the left, up and to the left, it's trying to recall. And so when you
Well,
were saying these
don't
things,
ever think that about me because sometimes I'm looking at my kids.
but
Sometimes I'm
that's
Well,
looking out
my
the
yeah,
my memory
window.
is due to the
yeah.
epilepsy.
It's a good basis, but you can't rely solely on that. Absolutely.
I have some
Yeah, well, a lot of
pictures.
people are like, "Well, you
If I'm
don't look
looking
like
down,
you
I'm
have
looking at
it."
a puppy. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I looked at a mosquito, like
who said
They
that they
told
had
me
epilepsy?
I think
That's you.
somebody, I think you
So,
asked if that's what I was getting at or something.
no. It was
the
Kelly,
other
right?
lady. No, I don't have
Yeah. Or
epilepsy. This
Leslie, I meant. Um,
see who's on
so
here.
you just randomly have seizures or something triggers them or
I
what?
take 4 medications and I have a special medical device in my chest that
Mm.
it's a vagus nerve stimulator, so it goes up through the neck, wraps around your vagus nerve because it attaches to your brain right away.
Yeah.
So mine is at a setting so that every 3 minutes it'll send like up those electrical waves to even out my brain waves.
So has that
Technically,
prevented seizures?
it stopped my tonic-clonic and my drop attacks, but
Yeah.
mine's just an uncontrolled type. So
That's probably terrifying, isn't it?
Mm.
Were you born with it, or was it something that came about? Because my crazy grandpa, his sister, fell out of the window in Louisiana, where they're from, and she hit her head, and she was like, she wasn't born with it or anything. It happened after.
no, I got it when I was 13. They started off as catamenial.
Oh,
But
So that's
when
the
you
one
have
that
a
only women can
seizure,
have.
are you like aware or are you unconscious?
I don't have the unconscious ones anymore. There's a type where technically you're still conscious, but your body shifts into an autopilot type of thing.
Mm.
So you could still be doing something and not even knowing it. And so you could end
Yeah.
up, because I've burnt myself before a little bit cooking.
Yeah.
And technically I live in a 2-story house, which is dangerous because I could fallen down them.
Right.
Um,
I know
like-
I know a guy who has, I think they call them silent seizures, where he'll just be they happen very quickly. Like he'll just,
absence.
yeah, and his head'll drop. Like he'll be talking, his head'll drop, and then he'll come back up like nothing happened. They happen real quick.
Yeah,
and then
those are
and
the
then it's just-
absence. Those are the more frequent ones that I have, but they happen so fast.
that you
that-
yeah. Sometimes he
forget to
doesn't even
write 'em
realize it
down.
happened. That's crazy. I feel your pain, man. I have, it's called complex migraines with aura, or complex hemiplegic migraines with aura, and they're very far and few between. Is that right? Is it few and far between, or far and few between?
Few and far between.
Yeah, they don't happen very often, but and I swear to God, you can look this up on the Mayo Clinic. The kind of migraines I get can cause stroke-like symptoms, like the blood going to your brain. There's muscle tissue around those vessels, and just like a Charlie horse in your leg, that muscle tissue will cramp up and squeeze, and then it reduces the blood flow to your brain. So you get
It reduces the
confusion, slur,
oxygen too.
it reduces
Yep.
the oxygen. So
That's basically-
it always starts out in my peripheral vision. I'll start getting this flashing picket fence light shit, and then until it takes up my whole vision. And then I might be talking, and then all of a sudden I'm like slurring my speech. I can't remember my own name. 5-10 minutes later, I'm completely normal.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
can
usually
have
followed
those
by an
where I'm
intent.
talking with
You've
somebody
had-
and all of a sudden I freeze up because it's like my mind went blank.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes
it's
they're real
terrifying.
short, sometimes they're a whole lot longer.
Have you ever had creeping numbness? Like it'll start in your thumb and then creep up your arm.
No, I've never had any type of auras. They just happen.
Okay, well, I get all of the aura. Like there's the whole list of aura. I get them all. Not every time, but sometimes it'll just be like weird flashy light shit. Sometimes it'll be confusion. The
When they change
scariest
the
is
names
when
of the stuff throughout the years.
you're the temporary memory loss, because that's like
Yeah.
having a stroke.
That's
You
that's
know.
Yeah.
that's
Most
been
of
me
mine
a lot
happen
lately.
in left temporal lobe, but
I
I
feel
have
you guys,
frontal lobe
man.
damage.
Yeah,
I actually
past
had to cut a
medications.
live chat short one time. I felt like all of a sudden I was like I didn't know what to say, and I was just like, oh, I'm really tired. I gotta go. Like, but fuck, man. Feel
I
like
have a
we
few
we
people
won
that
the
know
we
when they're
won the
happening.
shitty lottery, you know? Like,
we didn't win the shitty lottery. Here I go with my conspiracies again. I'll hold back.
well, it's
Yeah, I've
very
never been able to drive.
right. It's debilitating because like it can happen when you drive. It's hard to keep a job when you have 3-day migraines and can't get
Yeah,
out of bed.
That's why I'm a
You know
stay-at-home
what I
dad
mean?
now.
Like, it
Yeah, every
sucks,
job that I
man.
had, I would have seizures, and then it's like, this is just
Right.
ridiculous. So I haven't been working since 2010.
And
Mm.
people who haven't experienced anything like that, they're not very sympathetic to it. They're like, yeah,
They're
you know.
scared of it.
Right.
I'm scared. Like they said, you'll see your migraines increase, and then one day without warning, you're just gonna drop dead. Like there's no bringing you back.
Well,
That's
if
it.
you ever
But-
start seeing, there's images that you can look at online, different shit that can happen with your vision from migraines. If you ever start seeing weird shit with your eyes, the first time it happened to me, I had no clue what it was. I thought I was dying. Like my hand went numb, my speech cut out. I started seeing all kinds of weird shit. So like, you know, just know that it's a migraine. You know, you're not dying.
Yeah.
Like it'll go away.
Well, it's something in your brain.
Yeah, but it is something in your brain. I can't believe I don't have my medication on me. I have these dissolvable things that I have to take immediately. Otherwise I'll have immense pain. Like like I've had pain so bad in my head that I literally is the only time in my life I ever like contemplated killing myself. Not because I was depressed, but because it hurt so bad that I just wanted it to be over with. You know what I mean? I ended up going to the emergency room.
My mom always tells me, like, why didn't you call me so I could watch the girls while you were having a migraine? It's like I can't look at my phone long enough to
Yeah.
go through it,
Dial numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end our chat. Just Nirvana fans getting together, thinking about Kurt Cobain and, just sharing stories about how he affected our lives. It's crazy to think that Kurt would have been 56 years old if he were still here. And I know all of you wish he was. Music would be much different. But having said that, we're going to cut this, and I'll see you in the next one.